I am a somewhat popular YouTuber. My wife deleted my recordings because she's never seen me crying and I'm unemotional. This was originally posted on January the 7th, 2015. First of all, please don't ask me who I am and my YouTube alias. I want to keep this anonymous. Anne and I have been married for 9 months. We've been together for 3 years. Our relationship has been pretty smooth and I love her to bits. However, we have a big personality clash. We've lived with it in the past, but it's affected her more than it's affected me. I'm more of a keep it all in guy and I prefer to deal with my issues by myself. She, on the other hand, talks about her issues with me and we work through them together. I've always been a little cold, maybe steely is a better word. I'm not too emotional, not that it's a good or bad thing, it's just the way I am. My wife and I were forced to put down our dog recently. He was my dog before we met, but he became a big part of our family. She loved the heck out of that dog, and I did too. When I lived abroad for a year, he kept her company, and she was very close to him. So we came back from the vet, and she was crying all the way. I was feeling really sad, but I wasn't really showing it. She asked why I wasn't feeling sad. I told her I was. She started screaming at me for not having feelings, me being inhuman, me being cold, and her being scared of me for that. I told her that I cannot force myself to cry, and I was feeling terrible inside. We get home and she went off about I'm barely human and I'm basically an automation. She then went on and on about how she's never seen me cry. Not when we'd broken up 1.5 years into our relationship. Not when my mother died. Not when I was leaving for a year to work abroad. I told her that me crying doesn't solve anything and she should quit bothering me. I went to bed. The next morning, I wake up and decide to edit some videos I wanted to upload. I work from home and I have one main computer to work from. It has 3 hard drives. The first one is my OS drive, the other 2 have recordings on them. I wake up to find the other 2 completely wiped. I freak out and irrationally think that it might have been some software or something. I try and see what the cause was and I can't figure out anything. I put in so much work recording these videos, so much effort had gone into them. I broke down. I had backed up only the recordings from 2 months ago. I'm sobbing hard and I just feel pathetic. I'd lost so much of my work and I couldn't figure out how. My wife then comes in, sees me, I tell her what happened, and she tells me she did it. She wanted to see me cry and didn't know how else to make it happen. She's happy she got to see that some part of me is human. She tells me it was healthy for me to let my emotions out. I swear to God, that is the first time I've ever wanted to hit her. I would have strangled her. I packed up a few things, my laptop, my phone. I got in the car and I told her that I'll call her when I'm ready. I'm staying with a buddy of mine right now and I need to figure this out. She was all apologetic and loving when I was leaving and was acting confused. I feel nothing but hatred towards her right now, but I need to be tactful in handling this situation. Help me figure it out. I mean, that is genuinely my worst nightmare. I cannot tell you how much that would affect someone like me if that happened. I mean, look, obviously this is my job, but still, I know a lot of you guys out there have probably tried to make YouTube videos, or maybe you are like YouTubers or you've got your own TikTok or that sort of stuff. Imagine if all that got deleted. I mean, I've been doing this for, what's today's date? You know, almost 6.5 years now. And I still have all my recordings pretty much on my computer. And sometimes I genuinely look back. Actually, no, let's do it right now. I'll just show you on screen like what recordings I have of myself. Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my recordings folder. I call it OBS, which is the software I use to record on. It's what most YouTubers use. And this is sort of my folder of all my face cams over the years, like all my sort of desktop recordings. This right here is the current recording. It doesn't have a thumbnail yet, unlike all of these other ones, because it's still going. Well, you might notice as well, there's some football content in there. If you didn't know, I actually make some fantasy football content as well on a separate channel. Comment down below if you want to know more about that. But anyway, point being, these are the most recent, right? And if I just go like this, it just goes on and 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 on. This is going to be quite strange if you're listening on podcast platforms, but it just continues until we get to like this. I mean, let's just look at this. So this is from what, the 24th of November, 2020. Long time ago. And as you can see on screen, like this is me from what, 5 years ago. And I've still got it, and it's quite nice for me to like look back and see over the years how I sound. Any lessons? What if you're terrible at driving? And you know how I look and everything. So, you know, if someone took this away from me and deleted it on purpose, I'd be pretty gutted. But yeah, back to me now in the present. Goodness me. Look a bit older these days. It's a real shame. Point being, this is disastrous. I can't quite believe that this woman has done this to you just because you're unemotional. Now listen, I don't necessarily disagree. I think that it's good to show emotion, right? But this is not the way of getting your partner to show more emotion by like causing them actual trauma or whatever. Like, what the hell? Oh, I've never seen you cry before, so I'm just going to kill your entire family. Okay, now maybe then you'll shed a tear. It's like so dumb. Anyway, there is an update to come in this one, which I'm hoping that OP is going to be pretty strong here and break up. But let's see. Before that, let's see what the people of Reddit were saying in the comments. Somebody said, "This is funny as heck, OP. But if it actually happened, I would say that is grounds for a divorce, especially if you make a living from YouTube. That's a really childish and stupid way to handle her perception that you lacked emotion." Sorry, what is that comment? First of all, how is it funny? Secondly, I don't think it matters if you make a living from YouTube or not. If this is something you're passionate about and she's destroyed it and all evidence of it, then who cares if you're making money? Anyway, OP replied, "I'm not kidding here. This is something terrible that's happened, and it came out of the blue. I didn't expect her to do something as crazy as this." Somebody else said, more reasonably, "This is all sorts of effed up. Sorry, OP, but she went about this all the wrong way and acted like she was 13. Seems a bit sadistic. You two definitely need counseling to recover from this. That's better." OP said, "Right now, before I even think of saving my marriage, I want to know how to go about confronting her about this. I'm going to take a few days to cool off because I'm mad to the point of physical violence right now. That's why I immediately left as soon as she told me." Somebody else said, "If you would hit your wife over YouTube and you're crying over YouTube more than you did your dog or mother, maybe you both are better off divorcing. Or someone who knows that is where your priorities lie and won't touch the work you do." What is it with these comments today and them just being awful? Who cares how you react to certain things in your life? Like, that's up to you and you can't help that. Also, why have you written YouTube like that? Like, this probably is this guy's job. As I said, if this same thing happened to me, I'd be devastated because it's what I spend a lot of my waking life doing. Very, very strange comment. Anyway, somebody else said, "This is what you do. You confront her by saying, 'Do you have any feelings about a divorce? Go ahead, let them all out. It's healthy for you.' It's not about the videos. It's about the absolutely ridiculous worldview she has. Yes, thank you. If you fall down and break your leg, will she keep hitting it until you show the amount of pain she feels is right? I wouldn't trust her with my property, my feelings, or my future. And if I can't trust my spouse, there's no point to the marriage." OP replied, "I texted her. I received a text saying, 'How are you feeling?' I'm annoyed, so I text her, 'Hey, do you have any feelings about a divorce? Go ahead, let them all out. It's healthy for you.'" Wow, OP actually did what the comment said. Her response was, "Baby, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Leo died, and I guess it was just too hard on me. I love you so much, and I know what I did was terrible. Please forgive me and come home. I miss you. Let's just talk this through." Leo was our dog. Then another text, "Please don't do anything rash. We just got married. Why divorce? We have our entire lives ahead of us. Please don't let one mistake of mine ruin that future. I love you. I'm sorry. Please come home, or at least tell me where you are." Yeah, because your dog dying would make you delete all of your husband's work. Very, very, well, I mean, I was going to say very rational, and I'm not saying that you need to be rational when, you know, you have trauma like this, but dog dying leads to delete husband's work just doesn't make any sense anyway. Like, doesn't matter if you're in grief or mourning or whatever. It's just so weird. Anyway, let's get into the update. 5 days later, a lot has happened. I'm not going to cover all the events of the past few days, but here's the most important stuff. Data. I had a friend hook me up to a local store that specializes in this. Proper recovery is expensive, but they said that since no data is rewritten, it's possible. I'm waiting to hear from them tomorrow. That is great news. I didn't actually think about that, but yes, I'm sure there is a way that if you get a bit lucky and you use the right people, you can recover your files. Divorce. I decided that I'm not going to ask for a divorce. What happened was bad, but not divorce worthy. I want to give this a chance. Okay, fair enough. Wife, I went back to her. She was crying. It looked like she had been for a long time. I went in and she hugged me and cried even more, apologizing profusely. When she got a little more stable, we talked. She started by saying that she understood how badly she effed up. She said that I'm well warranted to ask for a divorce. However, she said that she will never do something like this again and that she doesn't want to spend the rest of her life in regret. She begged me for one last chance. Having had a wonderful relationship before this, I decided that I wanted to give her another chance. I asked her to explain why she did what she did. She said that first, Leo's death really got to her. Second, she confessed that she always felt like the weaker one in the relationship. She felt completely alone when she cried. I made a mental note to comfort her better when she's a little emotional, but she said that she understood right now. And she said that she felt terrible to engage in such power play and that she understood that we're just different people. She told me she really regretted her actions and wanted one chance to make it up to me. Thank you for your help and suggestions. Also, marriage counselling. We're getting an appointment to get through this issue. Okay, guys, comment down below. Now, this was over 10 years ago, right? This was January 2015, wasn't it? And today is the 7th of May, 2025. Do you think, and be honest here, that these two people are still together? I want to know your thoughts. Pause the episode. Even if you're on a podcast platform, you can still comment down below in the Q&A section. Let me know before I give what I think is a pretty obvious answer. Okay, have you done that? Good. Let's get back to my thoughts, which are, of course, much more important than all of yours. Anyway, you think I'm joking? I am. I see no way in which these two people are still together. I think that, fundamentally, they just seem incompatible. Like, I don't think actually either of them are really wrong about how they feel about certain things. But if you're with somebody and they're just too stoic for you, they're too unemotional, and you can't deal with that, which clearly this woman can't deal with that from you, then maybe you're not the right person for her. And similarly, the other way around, I kind of see how this is going to continue to be an issue in the future. Like, some people like the fact that, oh, I'm really emotional, my partner is not that emotional, it works well. And vice versa. I don't really show my emotions, but my partner does, and that's a good combination. But if you fundamentally don't like that about your partner, then I think it's not going to work, to be honest. Also, OP says, we've had a great relationship so far, but you did break up a year and a half ago. So I reckon there's probably more going on there as well. Also, I don't know, you've not been together that long. I know you're married, but still. I hope you're still together in a way. I just think it's unlikely. Maybe I'm being a pessimist here. You guys let me know in the comments down below. I do agree. I don't think this is worth divorcing over. I do just think it's one of the weirdest things that I've ever heard, though. And I can't stress enough how angry I would be and just distraught if somebody did this to me on purpose. But anyway, those are my thoughts. And that's the end of this episode. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. I think you're going to agree with me on that. I really do. Sometimes I'm not sure, but this time I'm pretty sure. But, maybe I'm wrong. My boyfriend keeps letting his friend come on our dates. Okay, how we got into this predicament in the first place is that my boyfriend just really likes his friend, Liam. He's like a brother to him. He saved his life once, etc. But he's on all our dates. I even brought one of my single dates on a date so we could double, and Liam and her don't date, so that failed. I've honestly asked my boyfriend, why is Liam on our dates? And he says that Liam is lonely, has nobody else, and he has no siblings or girlfriend. But then my boyfriend kind of guilts me because, and I know this sounds awful, Liam is the frickin' package for guilt. His mum died when he was young, then his dad and him don't talk anymore, so Liam just doesn't have anyone else to talk to. I honestly think my boyfriend is guilt tripping me, and I don't think I can do this relationship anymore. If nothing changes, I'm leaving. This has gone on for 3 months. Sure, I feel bad for Liam, but I don't really know him, and it's not my problem. It's also not just dates, but movie nights, he's here. Going to the mall, he's there. Where is he not? Also, I know this sounds made up. I still can't believe it, but it is very much real, and I basically just need validation that it's okay to break up with my boyfriend over this. Okay, somebody commented, before ending it, and you are fully validated on doing this, by the way, based on your post, have you put your foot down? Why don't you plan dates and tell him his friend is not invited, period? OP replied saying, I have, but as I said in the post, he always guilt trips me into letting him come. Saying this out loud, it kind of just made me realize he's manipulative. Somebody else said, it's okay to break up. You didn't sign up to be the third wheel in your own relationship. He can spend as much time with Liam as he wants as a single dude. OP left a little edit as well at the bottom of this saying, I called my soon-to-be ex-boyfriend to meet up and I'm gonna break up with him. I'm gonna tell him the exact reason, honestly. I swear, if Liam is there though, I'm not considering the possibility of not breaking up with him. It's not even just because of Liam, it's that he manipulates me into letting Liam come. I mean, yeah, from my perspective here, given that you have put your foot down and maybe you've done as much as you can here to say, listen, I'm gonna break up with you unless you stop bringing Liam to our dates. There's ample time, by the way, in the week to see Liam not with me and not on our dates. Then I'm going to have to break up with you. But if you haven't given him that chance yet, then I would do that first, but it sounds like you have. Anyway, on the same day, we got the following update. I broke up with my ex. I'm going to call him Xavier. I went to where we agreed to meet up, and guess who he brought with him? Oh, you guessed it, Liam. I was very annoyed at this point. I told him I wanted to speak with him privately, and he brings freaking Liam. It's very uncomfortable to break up with someone in front of their best friend, but I was too annoyed. I told him, I said I wanted to speak privately. He said, say it in front of Liam. Eventually, I just got annoyed and say, well, that's it. I don't want Liam always here in our private life, on dates, everywhere. He basically said, remember what I told you about Liam's circumstance? Blah, blah, blah. I said something like, I'm sorry, but I don't give an F about what Liam's going through right now. This is about me breaking up with you. Meanwhile, Liam is just standing there, looking confused. I'll get back to this later. So we basically get into a fight in this park, and it gets to the point where I tell him that he manipulates me into not kicking Liam out of our dates, and about everything he told me Liam went through. Like a brother to Xavier, saving his life, dead mum, dad absent, no siblings, friends, or girlfriend. And then Xavier looks like he got caught or something, and Liam gets angry, saying what did you tell her? This is all really funny and really awful at the same time, because it turns out that none of what Xavier told me was true. Liam has a fiance, has a real brother and sister, and his mum isn't dead. So anyway, I definitely broke up with Xavier. 40 minutes later, Liam DMs me, basically saying that Xavier told Liam that I wasn't comfortable being alone with Xavier, and that he thought I wanted him to be on the dates. Sir, what? He said the reason why he agreed is because his fiancée is living in Europe to finish up her study abroad program, and he had nothing better to do. So Xavier's just a flat out liar. I'm glad I broke up with him, mad I got lied to, but oh well. This was honestly not a turn of events I was expecting, and I've got to get it out somewhere. Okay, wow. Interesting start to this episode, and what an interesting story. The only thing that I can think is going on here is that maybe Xavier, by the way, I have no idea how to pronounce that name. I think it's Xavier, isn't it? Was doing this in a sneaky way to actually go on dates with Liam without Liam, knowing that he was on a date with Xavier. Maybe he wanted to go on dates with you as well, but I'm not actually sure he did. Maybe this was just a sort of way for him to go on dates with Liam, but why would you be there? You don't need to be there. I guess he said that he didn't feel comfortable with you, but then surely from Liam's perspective, he's like, why are you seeing somebody you don't feel comfortable with? Let me say this. Liam is not off the hook here. I still think he's been very weird in this story. If my mate was like, oh mate, can you just keep coming to all my dates with my girlfriend? I'd be like, no, you weirdo. That would be the weirdest thing ever. So what? I wouldn't say, oh yeah, I'm bored, I'll come on all your dates. Liam's really weird, actually, now that I think about it. Xavier is obviously the weirdest guy in all of this, and you made the right decision by breaking up with the pair of them, it seems like. What a strange story. I mean, just looking through the comments, somebody's comment, which is one of the top comments here with over 5,000 upvotes, is just, what the fuck? Okay, what a strange post to start today's proceedings. Now let's get into our second. Am I the jerk for not letting my co-worker stay at my place, even though I have the space? So, I, a 23-year-old woman, live alone in a small 2-bedroom house. One room is mine, the other is basically my everything room. It's my office, my closet, storage. Sometimes I just lay on the floor in there and stare at the ceiling when life sucks. It is not a guest room. I've lived with horrible roommates before, so I worked really hard to be able to afford my own place. And I love having my space. It's literally my safe little bubble. Anyways, one of my co-workers, who was 25, got into a huge fight with her roommates and they kicked her out. She was venting at work and I felt bad and was like, that sucks, oh my god. And I even sent her a few places to look at. I was trying to be helpful without inviting chaos into my life, you know? Well, later that night she texted me saying, hey, I was thinking maybe I could just crash with you for a few weeks since you live alone and have the space. I literally got that sinking feeling in my chest. No. I'm not even close to her. Yeah, we're cool at work, but we've never even hung out outside of lunch breaks and complaining about our boss. She doesn't know anything about me, and I don't know her like that. Why would she live in my house? So I replied super politely like, I totally get that you're going through it, but I really value my space, and I'm just not in a place where I can have someone stay with me. Like, I was nice. I didn't ghost her, I didn't ignore her, I just said no. Next day, she's acting really weird. Then another co-worker tells me she said I let her be homeless when I have an entire room to myself. Like, girl. First of all, she's staying at her boyfriend's place. Secondly, I pay to live alone. That's the whole point. I don't want to feel tense or uncomfortable in my own space. I don't want to tiptoe around a person I barely know. And I definitely don't want to deal with just a few weeks turning into, I'm looking but nothing's coming through yet for 2 months. Now people at work are acting like I'm the bad guy. I'm sorry for not letting a co-worker move into my apartment because she had a bad fight. I don't know. I feel bad, but like, also no. So, am I the jerk? Now, someone in the comments said, you're obviously not the jerk here. I don't understand why a co-worker would feel entitled to your home. That's truly bizarre. Her life is not your responsibility. I mean, I could maybe get it if you were super close and good long-term friends with a deep connection, but a casual co-worker? OP replied, yeah, literally just a casual co-worker. I don't get it. Somebody else said, anyone makes that comment against you, OP, you say, I'll let my co-worker know that you're volunteering your space to them. That's so kind of you. Aye, Captain, OP said. Someone else said, you're not the jerk. You don't need to find out firsthand why her roommates and boyfriend don't want to live with her either. That's a very good point. I mean, that is the main thing here. Like, if her own boyfriend isn't taking her in when she's in trouble, then obviously there's something wrong there. OP said, I'm definitely understanding it now, seeing the reaction after saying no. I'm a homebody and I really enjoy my personal space, given the fact I work 2 jobs and my home is my only carefree space. And ultimately, you were really nice about it. You didn't have to be as nice as that. You could have just said, no, sorry, I love living alone and, I've paid a lot of money to have a spare room for myself and I don't want to give it to anyone else. Simple as that. Somebody else said similar, like for the co-workers saying you're letting the girl be homeless, etc. Do you see them offering a place for her to crash? Exactly. OP said, it's only because I work my tail off with 2 jobs to have the extra space. It would feel pointless if I just handed that free space away. Somebody else said, this person isn't a friend or family. Why doesn't she just get an Airbnb or motel? That's what I was thinking, OP replied. If she's in such a horrible spot, I'd even help her pay for a night or 2. If it was family or my best friend, it would be a different story. But for added context, I've only been working at this job for 6 months. Also, it's worth mentioning, I think you made a great point here, that it's actually very likely that a couple of weeks would then turn into a couple of months. That sort of situation, as soon as somebody actually has a place, they're going to be less incentivized, especially looking at this person and seeing how she is, to get another place and move out and pay for somewhere else, to be honest. So I just would never do this. Finally, before we get into the update here, somebody said, you said people at work are acting like you're the bad guy. Has anyone said anything to you about the situation? OP said, it's always something like, well, I would if I lived by myself. I would if I had the space. I've had a similar situation happen to me and it sucks really bad, which is why I sent her listings. Not sure how that equated to let me live with you, but it does seem like my reasonings of wanting to be alone are somehow invalidated. It's like they think my free room didn't come at a cost. They probably just don't understand it from your perspective. They're just too obtuse to understand that you work so hard in order to have that extra space. It's like you put in the work for that room. It's not that you just happen to have it and you're not giving it out because you're selfish. No, that is why you've worked so hard and continue to work 2 jobs. Now, the next day we got this update. She went to jail. Lol. Don't know what happened, but I feel horrible to say I laughed. Well, that solves that issue. Oh my goodness, but that is one of the best updates ever. It's just one line. That is it. Now, Opie has left a little edit to highlight her favorite comment, which was, go up to the people that had something to say and tell them they're horrible for not bailing her out. Yeah, that's a very good point, but wow. That's the first time I've ever seen an update on this subreddit, which is literally just one line. That's about 20 words. Phenomenal. Now I want to know what happened. I mean, really, if you think about it, then this is just a win-win for everyone, right? Like, OP doesn't have to deal with her anymore and doesn't have to be badgered by her for her free room or other people in the company saying, come on, you've got the space, man, just do it. And, importantly, the co-worker now has a place to stay. So everyone's a winner. Great news. What a conclusion. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this one. 2 funny stories there. Second one, I just really want to know what happened. Why is she in jail? I want to know. Did she try and steal someone's house or just lodge illegally? I kind of feel like that's maybe what happened, but who knows? She called me a killer. Now she's out. This story is truly cruel. The closest person to me in the whole world is my grandmother. She was the one who saved me when my mother was abusing me. When my mother threw me out between the ages of 13 and 16, I knew I could take a taxi in the middle of the night and go to my grandma's. She would come downstairs at any hour, pay the fare, and take me in for the night. When I wanted to hurt myself, I either went to my grandma's or I called her. And this grandma, astonishingly, is my mother's mother. And she is painfully aware that her daughter is a monster, not a human being. She knows exactly how much harm my mother has caused me. A few years ago, my grandma had like a full collapse. She was barely breathing and her heart was barely responding. She was rushed to the hospital completely unconscious. My mother was screaming in hysterics. I cried my eyes out every night. The doctors gave her no chance. After 3 months of unconsciousness, they asked us, the family, to consider taking her off life support, to let her go. By then, I hadn't spoken to my mother in years. But in that situation, of course, we started talking again. One day, my mother called me, crying and begging for advice. What should we do? Should we keep grandma on the machines or should we let her go? The hospital didn't want to keep her much longer. They wanted to transfer her to hospice. She occasionally breathed on her own, but the question was, if her condition crashed again, should we intubate her again? If she stopped breathing? I love my grandma 100 times more than my mother. She meant the world to me. But I also knew she would never want to just exist, as she used to say, like a vegetable. She was a strong, amazing woman who always wanted to stay independent. So I told my mother, she's still alive now. She's still breathing. Let's hold on to that. But if she were to go to hospice, I don't think we should prolong her life by force. And at that moment, my mother's tone changed. Ha! Got you! I knew it! I knew you always wanted to off her! I recorded this! You idiot! You totally fell for it, you stupid female dog. Now the entire inheritance will go to me. Oh my gosh. I hung up. 2 days later, my grandma regained consciousness. It took her almost 6 months to fully recover her strength and mobility, but she did it. She's been doing well ever since. It's been 6 years now, and she's fine. My mother has visited her many times, playing that recording over and over again. She keeps repeating, "That beloved granddaughter of yours wanted to off you." But Grandma always replies, "Oh, F off. I wouldn't want to spend the rest of my life on a ventilator either. She was right." Then, after some time, my grandma wrote an updated will. One that can't be challenged. One that completely disinherits my mother, and it's signed by several lawyers and psychologists. My grandma is doing well. I love her more than anyone in the world. And my mother, who would have inherited something by legal succession if she acted like a human being, will now get nothing. F you. Wow. I mean, look, I said it in the intro, guys, but do you not agree with me? this has to be the most psychotic mum that we've seen. That is genuinely crazy. Like, that's so mad. I can't actually believe that your grandma is so amazing. You seem like a pretty normal person, nice girl, and your mum's just like that. How is that possible? It's actually insane, but hey, you need to get away from that woman as quickly as possible. She sounds off her rocker. Also, like, shout out to your grandma for recovering from that and still knocking about now, 6 years later. That's insane. Sorry, let me just reread this. Was she like unconscious pretty much for 3 months and made it through? Elite stuff. You know, I feel like if your mum was unconscious, she'd probably just be like, oh, you know what, I'm not going to fight, can't be arsed, I'm a terrible person, and just die. Bit of a weird thing to say, but the point being, I admire the bravery and courage of your grandma, and I think that is maybe what pulled her through. Anyway, let's move on to our second story. Okay, now moving on to our second story, which I think probably shows how grandmas can be either amazing, like in that first story, or less amazing, like perhaps we're about to see here. My grandma is surprised that I don't want her attention after ignoring me for most of my life. To give you a little context on the kind of relationship me and my grandmother had, for 20 years she spelled my name wrong. Every card that was sent had my name spelled wrong. On my 21st birthday, she sent me a card that actually had my name spelled correctly. And I, along with my mother, were so shocked that we were wondering if she'd actually sent the card. Growing up, my grandma was really close to one of my cousins, Mike. I just assumed it was because she and Mike lived close, while I only got to see my grandma on holidays or family vacations, so like once or twice a year. So the moment that made things click for me was when I was around 12 and we were taking a family vacation. We decided to go to a museum specifically for a Native American exhibit, as my grandma says we are Native American, even though there's literally no evidence of that. But once we got to the gift shop, my grandmother had bought herself and Mike matching necklaces. I remember feeling very bad and left out, so I asked her if I could get something to match with her as well, and to summarize what she said, oh, well, it's just the thing with Mike and I. We just really bond over our Native American heritage. You don't know much about it, so it wouldn't make sense to buy you something. It was at that moment in my head, I was like, oh, so you're just never going to acknowledge me and my feelings then. From then on, I never went out of my way to vie for her attention. Cut to several years later, I'm an adult and my grandmother is 79. My aunt had planned an all-girls cruise for our family. The entire time, my grandma kept wanting to join me for things and kept asking me about my plans. I found it all very weird because she showed literally no interest in my life prior. And she was shocked when I didn't want to do anything with her one-on-one. I talked to my mum about this and she was like, yeah, that's her. Her love goes to the highest bidder. I think now that she's really old, she's worried about the lack of connections she's made with family and doesn't want to die alone. I kind of felt indifferent about the whole thing. Sort of like it sucks to suck mentality. Which I do feel guilty about because she's my grandma, but relationships are a two-way street, and my grandmother made no effort and seemed to go out of her way to make me feel bad. I'm not going to ignore her, but I'm not going out of my way to placate her because she now suddenly feels guilty. Especially if that guilt comes from a place of self-interest, which it definitely does. I'm saying that from the outside looking in. Now, OP has added a nice little edit at the end of this, which I need to read. I just wanted to add some positivity to this mess. I've been building a relationship with my grandmother from my dad's side. The only reason we weren't close is because my parents divorced when I was a baby and my grandmother lived on the other side of the country. So it was hard for us to communicate and see one another. Now, I talk to her on the regular and she's super supportive and sweet. She always ends her messages with, quotes, I love you, and remember, you can always call your grandmother if you need anything. And it's very clear she doesn't have favourites. She loves all of us grandbabies equally, even the ones not related by blood. Well, there we go. Yeah, good stuff. What a lovely woman. Now, I'm happy to say that my grandmother, well, one of them anyway, both of them are still knocking about. Fair play to them. May well be watching and listening to this episode. If you are, hiya. It's me, your grandson. Point being, she's very supportive. She's a lovely woman. And I probably should see her more often. I read stories like this and I think, should be there. But yeah, she is definitely not the sort of woman that is going to do this, I don't think. And she's over the age of 79 now anyway, so that's very unlikely. But yeah, I don't know. I've been very fortunate with my family and grandparents in general. They're all pretty nice. They've all done pretty well. I think I'm very lucky. so I've never had to deal with anything like this, but I can imagine, like, when you have family like this, it's just so challenging. You guys let me know in the comments down below. Relationships with your grandparents, what are they like? If they try to use you at all, or maybe it's the other way around. Let me know. Now, as I mentioned, the third story in this one is an update to that 15-year sort of disowning and then coming back into their live story from a couple of days ago. If you haven't seen that one yet, or if you don't know what I'm talking about, then I've left links to part 1 and part 2 in the description. Actually, I'll just leave part 1 because you need to start from the beginning there. Then there's an update in part 2, and then we have this story. So yeah, I'm not going to give too much context here, apart from the title, which I'll read in just a second. But yeah, if you don't know what's going on, links down below. Okay, so let's get into this update then. My family disowned me 15 years ago, complete no contact. Now, all at once, they want back in my life and they're stalking me. I finally confronted them. So firstly, to answer a common question, am I going to seek out my siblings and their families? The answer is no, and that answer is set in stone. And the reason is relatively simple, at least to me. My siblings are 2 and 4 years younger than I am. So when everything happened, they were old enough to understand and know what was happening. I waited for a year and a half before I changed my last name and all my contact information. They could have easily reached out to me, stood up to our parents and come to my defense, but they didn't. So now all this time later, I just don't feel the need to contact them or reconnect. To be completely honest, they're complete and total strangers and I really don't see much of a reason to reconnect. People have been asking me if I'm okay, and the answer is yes. I'm feeling a lot better. This got too much in my head, but I realized I was way overthinking this. Nothing really changes. I've not heard from any of them. My best friend took me to his lawyer, and I gave him everything and told him everything. He said that since reputation and family name are so important, that a simple cease and desist letter should just do the job. That he was sure my family wouldn't want their reputation and story splashed across the local news. I also feel like because of my cousin, I in general feel better about things as well. Heck hath no fury like my cousin Jean annoyed. The other day she called and said that we need to take a day and go and do something. Get out of town and just forget about everything. I agreed with no thought to it. We always have a great time when we do an outing. So I got to her place and immediately went up to her kitchen for coffee to figure out what we were going to do. I got to the kitchen and she had a bunch of papers scattered out doing a bunch of research. I asked what she was working on. Her response, "Your parents annoyed me. All I want to do is go over to their house and beat the heck out of both of them." She took a drink of her coffee. Let's talk names again. She started to research our lineage and realize some things. She told me that if there was still anything left of our last name, businesses and family money, she was almost 100% certain that I would be the sole heir to anything left if there was anything. I asked how this was possible. Surely, if anything, it would be her husband's remaining siblings and children from those survivors. But she said it was because of my grandmother that she was one of the originals, for a lack of better words. I was born under the last name, and even though my parents changed it later, I changed it back. She said it could be considered along the lines of succession. My grandmother was an original. All I could do was just kind of laugh. It's so funny how vested Jean is in this. I made the comment, look, it all sounds good and it would be nice, but if her one sister-in-law had anything to say about it, she and her family would have taken it all by now. They already got the farm. Jean ended it with, "I would have helped you get what was rightfully yours." I don't think she's completely accurate, but it's a fun thought. I laugh at how involved she is in this. I think it makes me that much more grateful to have her in my life. After that, we took off for the rest of the day and went shopping, had lunch, went and had manis and pedis done, and had dinner. But I'm good. I think we're good. I truly don't think I'll hear anything from my family. I think once they get the letter, it will all be done and over. Okay, so there we go. Pretty good update, to be honest. I think that's probably the end of things. Once again, slightly confusing. Not quite sure what is going on with the surname stuff, but it's not really important, is it? The good thing is Jean is just like a legend. I'm not entirely sure if what she's saying is legit or not. Kind of think it's probably not, but the fact that she's saying it in the first place and cares that much is amazing. And yeah, as you said, it's so good for you to have someone like Jean in your corner helping you out through all of this. Many of you have been asking for an update. First and foremost, thank you all for your responses. I was overwhelmed. I read every single one. I just couldn't keep up to respond to them. I also worked some extra shifts and had some really nice overtime, which right now comes in handy. Please just know I wasn't ignoring you. I just couldn't keep up. This isn't the update that many of you were most likely hoping for. I haven't heard from my family since I confronted them. I'm hoping it's all done and over, but at the same time, I'm thinking they're trying something else. Now, I wanted to address some other things. Many are saying they are out for money or body parts, that they see I'm successful and such. But I can't see this being the case. I truly don't think it's money. If they were able to drop $5,000 for a PI, then I can't see them hurting financially. My dad worked as an ORD for his entire career and made good money. My mum worked for a global corporation as a historical document manager. I didn't ask, but I'm thinking that they might even still be working. Others said maybe they need body parts. Oh, I see. Sorry, I thought that was like a joke about stealing an arm, but no, you mean organs. Right, okay, sorry, my bad. I can't see this being the case either, because all of these would have been mentioned the first or the last time we talked. People have mentioned they see me as successful and want in on it and take the credit, saying that they're responsible for that in how they treated me. But I'm successful in my own way. My education is in healthcare management and I work as a unit secretary. I've been here for a while and I truly love my job. I'm at the top of my pay scale and that's okay. I've made a life for myself. Yeah, I do have some money stashed away. I live below my means to do what I've done. I'm single, no kids, so it's allowed me to save money. Anyway, on to the update now. This is a long update because it's part of a conversation I had with my cousin. I've not heard from any of them since the last meet where I confronted them. I'm hoping that they're just gone at this point. I truly don't want anything to do with any of them. I don't care that I have nieces or nephews or that I have a new brother and sister-in-laws. I would have to know my sister and brother and my parents to know all these new people, and frankly, all of them are strangers, and it just brings up a lot of bad emotions. My cousin Jean is the only person who I have anything to do with, and she's been my rock. I can't begin to thank her enough for all she's done. She's been on vacation for a few weeks, so she doesn't know much of what happened. She got back and came over the other night. She showed up with wine, pizza, and cheesecake. God, I love that woman. I opened the door, and I was greeted with, "The wise woman has arrived and has brought the makings of a great evening." I started crying, and she responded, "However, it looks like I should have arrived a few days ago." She set everything on the counter and just hugged me to get me to calm down. Finally, as she opened the wine and fixed up dinner, I told her everything. At the end, she got a vindictive smile on her face and was like, "We need to talk. It's time for some family secrets to be told." First, she started with telling me that regardless of what others had said, what happened wasn't my fault. I was stuck in the perfect storm which just blew up. She told me she saw my folder that had all of the work I'd done to fix the problem, but it just didn't go quickly enough. She reminded me that I didn't kill anyone, I didn't deal drugs or anything like that. I was stuck in a situation that didn't get fixed fast enough. She went on to tell me that it was no surprise that when I did the name change, I chose the one I did. Come to find out, it was the last name I was born under, which was my grandmother's, my mother's mother, last maiden name. Jean said, "Don't let your parents fool you. They are not the pure pillars of community that they want you to believe they are. I've always known that their relationship wasn't the best. But when I was born, they were split up and my mum was trying to hide me from my dad. My grandparents didn't like him, so it was decided to give me my grandmother's family name." She was getting more and more annoyed as she spoke. So let's talk about names, since they're so hell-bent of how you shame the family name. Your mother was the one who was born under the influential names. Her mother's family, the name you took, pretty much owned 2 of the local towns in our county. Your grandfather's name owned a few businesses in a different town. Your father's family was never heard of. They were from a different state and moved here for work purposes. Your dad has been riding off of your mother's name and connections. Even to this day, your dad's family is pretty much a bunch of unknowns. On top of that, even if your grandparents were alive, they would have been completely behind you and wouldn't have bought into that whole bull trash of shaming the family name. The only time I ever saw her in a mood like this was when I was in college, and when she introduced herself to the class, she looked square at me and made it clear that she had no favourites. All of this has really made me look at my parents in a different way, and none of it's positive. It just reaffirms what I want even more, which is for them to just go away and never come back. To the small few of you saying this is fake, fan fiction and whatnot, go for it. Apparently all of you live in perfect worlds with perfect families, and you most likely say the same thing to every post you read. I couldn't give 2 dangs, a flying F or a rat's butt what you think, I just need to get this out. Okay, so there we go. A bit of a confusing update, to be honest. Maybe you guys have interpreted that story better than I have. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I think the overarching point is, though, that you did nothing wrong, OP, ever. You didn't pay a couple of tickets because you only got the tickets as your license was suspended due to your ID being stolen, which you didn't even know about, so you couldn't pay them, right? Maybe, yeah, the paperwork is a bit of an issue, but you said you weren't even there. It wasn't even in the state. So it wasn't anything you ever did. That's the main point. And then these guys just disowned you. Like, just, you know, I don't really understand exactly what's happened in that last update in terms of the family name, but doesn't it just make them sound even more stupid? I mean, I don't really agree with the fact of, like, your dad's name isn't anything anyway, so therefore him saying you've ruined the family name doesn't mean anything because it's his name. But it's just a very confusing situation nonetheless, and overall. But yeah, whatever's really going on here, thank goodness that you have Jean in your corner. And thank goodness that you've made the right decision in the end, just to sack off your family completely. As you can probably tell, guys, I'm a little bit confused by that, but I wanted to bring you the update nonetheless. If you know more than me what's going on in the comments, enlighten me. Anyway, 2 more stories to come in this episode, brand new stories. Let's get into the first one, but you're going to want to stay tuned for the second as well, because in that, someone's mum thinks that they didn't deserve the money that they earned from working, and to give it to her instead. Let's get into the first one first, though. Mum still complains that we named my daughter after my mother-in-law 1.5 years later. My mother-in-law is deceased. My husband, the youngest of 5, was very close with his mother. Unfortunately, he's the only one whose children never got to meet her, as she passed away suddenly in his 20s before having kids. When I was pregnant with my daughter 2 years ago, he said he was excited, but sad that she'd never get to meet his mum. I suggested we name our daughter after my mother-in-law in some way. I liked my mother-in-law's middle name and suggested we incorporate it. We decided to use it as our daughter's middle name. Our friends, my husband's family, and my extended family all thought it was a sweet gesture, but my mother was furious. Every conversation, she would rant about how unfair it was, how I slighted her, how I was favouring my mother-in-law over her, even though I never met my mother-in-law. I hadn't learned to set healthy boundaries at that point, so I tried to offer a compromise. We were still in search of a first name, so we told her to send suggestions. She sent us a list, and the names were not good, like Priscilla and Blossom, and a bunch of names that flowed horribly with my husband's surname. If anyone out there is called Priscilla and Blossom, well, that's tough. It really is. Anyway, when I told her we wouldn't be using any of the suggestions, she lost it, saying we were disrespectful. My husband was making the baby all about him. We were ruining the experience of her first grandchild. She also said my husband had his pick twice because we were giving the baby my mother-in-law's middle name and my husband's last name. I was still in my doormat phase, so I sent her the list of first names we liked and encouraged her to pick one. She refused, saying that none of them were as good as her picks and none were good enough for her granddaughter. In the end, my husband and I chose a first name from our list along with my mother-in-law's middle name. After that, every single conversation with my mother circled back to my daughter's name. She said she was willing to compromise with us and sent us names similar to the one we chose, but, quote, prettier. Every time I shut her down, she'd pitch a fit that I was naming my daughter after one grandmother and not the other. I was hormonal and pregnant, and I told her it was ridiculous for her to be so jealous of a dead woman and that if she kept it up, she wouldn't be seeing my daughter. To this day, she still makes snide comments about it behind my back, according to my dad. We're low contact with my family now, and I've learned to set firm boundaries, which has brought a lot of peace. I thought of this story because we brought my daughter to my mother-in-law's grave recently. It still annoys me, but there's enough space where I can at least laugh about it now. Hopefully, you can laugh about it too. Okay, well, your mother's just a clown. Now, I feel like it's a bit of a shame that you're low contact with your entire family, because your dad seemed alright with this, but your mum, just so dumb. I mean, being jealous of a dead person is like, it's a new low, isn't it? It's a new low. Like, your mum could have had a granddaughter with a name that she didn't like or was jealous of, but instead, she lost a daughter and that granddaughter, so well done to her. Really well done. Sensible decision making. I mean, I guess you could have said to her, I don't really know why you're so upset. When you die, I'll name our next child after you, if that makes you happy. It's like, you're still alive. My mother-in-law is dead. Yes, we've taken her middle name and given it to our daughter. Not her first name, by the way, her middle name. Yet, you're jealous of that, despite the fact that you are lucky enough to still be alive and she is dead. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, now moving on to our final story of this episode. Mum thinks I didn't deserve the money I earned and thinks I'm spoiled and stingy for wanting to keep it. Am I in the wrong here? For context, I work with my dad sometimes for his catering company. He had an event with a lot of people and needed extra help, so I came with him. I woke up at 6 a.m, I got there at 7 a.m, and I started preparing the food until people arrived outside at about 10 a.m. My job was to bring the food outside on carts and set it on the table. The event lasted until 1:30 p.m, and then we cleaned up and left at around 4:30. It was a lot, but honestly, it was nice to be able to help out and do something important. Later that day, my dad gave me a $100 bill for helping out. And, as expected, my mum freaked out and said I didn't deserve that much money, and she said to give it to her instead. This is basically how the conversation went. My mum, squinting. Where did you get that from? Well, Dad gave it to me for helping out at the catering event today. $100? That's way too much. You don't need that much money. I woke up at 6 a.m, worked non-stop from 7 to 4:30. That's 9 hours of work. Still, you're just a helper, not a full employee. You should give that to me so it's not wasted. What? No way. I earned it. Dad gave it to me. Yeah, but you live under my roof. That money should go back to the family. And I just helped feed like 500 people today. I think I can keep one bill without it being seen as a crime. My mum then just stares at me like I'm crazy. I just want to be able to have my own money and my own stuff. It just feels good to have something that I paid for. I've had so many times where she'll break my things or take my money because I didn't buy it myself. Now today, she's talking about it again, saying I've always been spoiled and that I'm just being stingy for not wanting to give money to her, my mother. Most of me feels like I should have the money, but now my dad has done a complete 180 and says that I should give the money back as well. What? So I don't know if I should just give it back so things don't escalate for no good reason, or if I should just keep the money that I worked for. Well, that is a crazy end to that story. I thought that was going down a pretty typical entitled parents route where this Karen mum was just dumb. But the fact that the dad's 180'd as well is terrible. $100 for 9.5 hours of work is actually pretty bad. Like, that's below minimum wage. Well, it is in the UK at least. I presume it is in America as well. Even for someone under the age of 18, I'm pretty sure that's very close to below the minimum wage you're allowed legally to give somebody. I guess it's not full-time employment though, so it's a little bit different. But whatever. It's not like a crazy amount of money, right? $100 for a full day's work is not a crazy amount of money at all. So the point being, you definitely deserve that money. Your mum's crazy. We all know this. Why is your dad gone 180? That's the embarrassing thing here. It must be because she is pressuring him into doing that, which is poor. Not just from her, but from him to like lie down and be trodden on and be like, oh, fine. I guess I'll have the money back then. He knows full well that you earn that money and that $100 is a very fair amount. If not enough. So that's crazy from him. Very, very poor. To be honest, halfway through this, I was thinking that maybe your parents were divorced or split up and that's why your mum was annoyed. But I actually think now they're probably still together and it's just the pressure from your mum to your dad that has made him become your mum's little bitch. It's gonna have to be censored, but your mum's female dog is probably more apt. But there we go. Am I the jerk for laughing at my stepson and ruining his wedding? This was originally posted on April the 18th, 2025. For context, I've been married to my husband for just over 20 years. We started dating when my stepkids were 5 and 3. Our kids are Adam, he's 28, stepkid 1. Ben, he's 26, stepkid 2. Charles, who's 20, David, who's 17, and Ellie, who is 13. Adam is getting married at the end of summer to his fiancée Alice, who's 27. We've all been very excited for them. All of the kids have roles for the wedding. Charles is the best man, the other 2 boys are groomsmen, and Ellie is a junior bridesmaid. Last weekend, we had a dinner for my husband's birthday. All of the kids attended along with Alice. The topic of the wedding came up, and this is where it started to go downhill. Ellie brought up that she was so excited to go dress shopping and that we plan to go to a bigger city in a few weeks to get her a dress, and me a stepmom of the groom dress. At that, Alice looked at Adam sideways and responded that we only needed to worry about one dress, Ellie's. Ellie kind of laughed and said, "What are you expecting mum to wear then? A suit?" Alice responded with, "Well, she's not going. You know, we're keeping our guest list very limited to only family and a few close friends." What? Adam and Alice have been to our house numerous times for holidays, dinners, just to say hi since they've been engaged. This has never been brought up. Pretty quickly, things escalated. The Cliff Notes version is that Charles asked them to clarify if they were choosing to uninvite me now or if I was never invited. Alice confirmed the latter. Why? Well, Adam said it's because I'm not his mum. Charles, David and Ellie argued with Adam and Alice that none of them were going to go if I wasn't invited, that it was cruel to leave me out given I've been his parent for a majority of his life and loved him like my own. My husband and I admittedly sat there for a minute, just frickin' shocked. Adam finally turned to my husband and said, "Well?" My husband told him he wouldn't be going either. Adam then turned to me and asked if I was really going to let everyone ruin his wedding on my behalf. Here's where I might be the jerk. I just laughed. I don't know what came over me, but the entire thing was just so ridiculous that laughing was the only thing I could get out. I told my husband I'd be waiting in the car, and I left. And then I promptly bawled my eyes out. Oh man. Anyways, Charles, David and Ellie are not talking to Adam. Adam called my husband yesterday to try and smooth things over. He was still adamant that I'm not invited, and it's their wedding though. He also requested that I apologise for laughing at him. My husband told him, "Tough trash. It's their wedding and they can invite whoever they want, but they can't control who will actually go." He said they owe me an apology and that Adam should be ashamed of himself. I'm getting texts now asking what the F I did and why I'm being a step monster and ruining the wedding. So am I the jerk? Wow. Obviously not, but goodness me. What a start to this story. Now, I want to immediately get into the comments here because this comment I think is very, very apt. Somebody said, "I feel like there's actually a lot missing here. You've been married to his dad since he was 8. That was years of elementary, middle, high school, college, 20 years. Is his mother still alive? Did his fiancée influence him? Just seems odd to not invite his dad's wife of 20 years and then call her not family. I don't think you're the jerk, but I just want to know more about the past 20 years. And I think that's very important because without that context, looking at this, you just be like, okay, what is going on? Adam and Alice are ridiculous here. Or Alice has such a hold over Adam or whatever. But, you know, we don't know for sure what OP's role has been in Adam's life. We just know she's been around for a long time, but we don't actually know what their relationship is. So I'm happy that somebody asked this in the comments down below. And OP replied saying, "I'm sorry, I had to cut out a lot for the character count to post. On r/AmITheJerk, there is quite a limited character count." Anyway, when Adam called, my husband did ask him if I'd done anything. If it was related to his bio mum, she's never gotten along with us. If I'd overstepped in any way. Adam says, no, it's just they want family only. Adam's stepdad is invited as far as we know. I was a stay-at-home mum for most of my stepkids' childhood and we had 50-50. My husband has always worked a lot but has been as involved as possible. The house and child rearing mostly fell to me though. I love our kids to pieces. I thought we'd made it clear from the beginning that I am/was another parent that loves them, not a replacement mum. We've never had any issues, and I thought up until now that we were particularly close. Our communication has slowed since he met Alice, but he was calling me about once or twice a week prior to this. Alice and I have gone shopping on occasion, got on lunch. I even went with her to the florist for the wedding because her mum wasn't available and Adam got called into work. There has to be something or someone causing an issue, and my husband and I are baffled. Somebody else asked, is his mum invited? OP said, yeah, as far as we've heard, the stepdad is also invited. We, my husband and I, have never gotten along with the mum, but we still play nice, as we still have 50-50 of my younger stepson, Ben. Adam and his mum had a falling out a few years ago, as she was starting to treat him the way she's always treated my husband and I. That is, poorly. I don't really know how to nicely explain other than she's a narcissist. Adam hasn't wanted to talk about it much, and we won't push it. I know they talk and visit, but how close they are, I've got no idea. Somebody asked about, custody of Ben at 26? Yeah, he's disabled. He can choose where he's staying as he likes, but he mostly sticks to a 50-50 schedule, unless there is a family event or vacation. He's pretty independent, but he's not able to live on his own. Guardianship is probably a better word for what we have now instead of custody. So, with all that context, somebody then said, well, you're absolutely not the jerk then. Assuming that you and Adam have gotten along fine until now, it's absolutely wild that they wouldn't invite you. Only family and a few close friends. A step-parent literally counts as family. And the nerve to accuse you of ruining his wedding, I don't blame you for laughing. Yeah, I agree with that. It's just so shocking that you either laugh or cry. And OP did one and then the next. It makes sense to me. I mean, that's a genuinely very reasonable reaction to something that is as outright hilarious, really, as that. OP then said, it's probably also relevant, but my husband's parents are long since deceased. My parents, dad, stepmom and mum, have been very involved with all of the kids since they were little. They're also not going, since if I'm not family, they're not either. My brother and sister-in-law, their daughter, my cousin, they call him uncle, and several of my other family members that have been around since my stepkids were little have also dropped. They're up to about 20 people who have rescinded their yes RSVP for a wedding of maybe 60. Now, thankfully, another commenter picked up on something that I just realized. Wait, hold up. So your family was invited, but not you? Then what the heck did Adam expect when it came out that you're not invited? Well, that's my family's take. Why are they invited, but I'm not? They aren't related to my stepkids by blood either, but they're apparently family? To be fair, my family is larger than my husband's and my stepkids, stepdads and biomums. My stepkids were the first grandkids on my side. They were not with biomum and dad's families, and were absolutely spoiled rotten growing up. Charles is now supposed to meet Adam for a coffee over the weekend. I've warned him that truly I don't think it's coming from Adam and to try to be calm about it. Somebody else asked for some info. What is the nature of your relationship with Adam? Is his mother in the picture? And importantly, could his fiancée Alice be in his ear? I thought we were particularly close. Besides the normal teenager, I don't have to listen to you BS phase, we've never fought. We've always had him and Ben 50-50. As a teen and on, he's butted heads with his mum. There have been times over the years where Adam had come to my husband and I and asked questions from things his mum had said, but we've always been forthcoming with info. Example of that is that his mum called me a homewrecker. This upset Adam. Adam came annoyed at us, explained that no, Bio mum and dad were long since broken up, and mum even had a fiance who was not current stepdad when I met dad. Pulled receipts. Then Adam got upset with his mum. Blew over and on to the next thing. We still deal with Bio mum though, and do have a hard time believing she'd pull something at this point. Alice and I aren't super close, but I thought we had a good relationship. I've always tried to include her. Sometimes she takes up my offer, sometimes she doesn't. I know she sees Bio mum quite a bit, and that side of Adam's family too. She was raised by her grandparents, and she doesn't talk about her bio parents often. Somebody else asked, how did Ben react to this? At this point, I probably wouldn't go to the wedding, and I'd block him and his future wife. They would have to grovel in order for me to go. They made it clear they don't see you as family, so you don't need to do anything for them going forward. OP said that Ben was very upset and confused. He is autistic, so what exactly the argument is about doesn't quite click, but he's mostly upset that Adam says I'm not their parent and his siblings are all fighting. We've sat him down since and explained that I love him dearly and I'll never go anywhere. All of us love Adam, we're just hurt. He himself can choose to go to the wedding or not. He doesn't have to choose sides, we'll still love him if he goes. Honestly, he probably will. He loves cake and dancing. He seems to be doing just fine since. He's not asked about Adam, but we'll go to his mum's tomorrow and probably see him there. OP added a little bit more context down below as well, just info on everyone's relationships, saying, it was hard to include every bit of context in the post because of that character limit, but I quit my job when Charles was 6 months old. Adam would have been 8, almost 9. No affair. I met my husband when he'd been divorced for over a year. Bio mum was engaged to somebody else. If you ask their bio mum, she'll say I've always overstepped. If you ask her how, she'll give examples like I went to school events. Well, so did stepdad. I helped with homework. I spent too much time with them. She would thank me for loving her kids so much and then turn around and berate my husband for me loving kids that aren't hers too much. Another example is that in the beginning, she wanted to communicate with me directly more. Said she loved the communication and that I was easier to deal with than my husband. Next argument with my husband, she brought up that I was weird and too involved and she shouldn't have to talk to me whatsoever. I've not talked to her since. Periodically, she's brought up that I was easier to talk to and she doesn't understand why communication just has to go through my husband. Well, after several years of trying to appease her, we quit to just focus on keeping our family happy and supported. It's been 23 years now of dealing with her. I've been to therapy multiple times to resolve whatever issues she says I have. It did actually help with strategies to deal with her. Truly, it's just that she has mental issues. Their dad did work a lot. He's always been on nights. It's changed slightly over the years, but we had stepkids Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and every other Monday. His days off have always fell over those days, so he can spend the maximum amount of time with them. But usually he worked 1 to 2 of those nights. Very rarely would he work overtime on days we had my stepkids. Usually he would though on days we didn't. We still currently try to do dates on days when Ben is not with us. I hope that makes sense and clears up some questions. Now somebody asked for a little bit more detail on Alice, and I feel like when we get into the update of this story, and I'm just guessing here because I haven't read any further, but I think Alice is going to be an integral part. Surely it's come from her. Right now, I just cannot see how this is coming from Adam. But anyway, somebody asked, are Alice's parents still together? Has she assumed you're some kind of evil stepmother? Does she have a bad relationship with her stepmom and doesn't want to invite her? OP said, her, quotes, mum and dad are actually her grandparents. She's not talked about it much with me specifically, but her bio mum is deceased, drugs, and her bio father is in prison. She's talked about it some with my husband, who was adopted by his aunt and uncle, father not in the picture, and mother died from cancer when he was 4. My stepmom has also talked with her at one point because she too was adopted by her grandparents for similar reasons. It just adds to our confusion. We've got such a mix of types of family, regardless of blood. My mum has been laying it on thick that I need to smooth things over because family is family, and I'm the parent, so it's my responsibility to fix it. But frick, I'm not ready to talk to Adam. Now, to briefly summarize this comment, they pretty much say that they think there is a bad actor here, but they do not think it's OP. From everything they've seen of OP's writing and how she acts in the comments and what she says about her relationship with Adam, with Ben, etc., she's a good mum. And I agree with that. I think it's pretty clear, right? You can tell by someone's writing and stuff that, they are not the issue in this story. I think we can all agree on that. Anyway, OP says, thank you for your thoughtful comment. Adam will always be my first son, whether he thinks of me as his mum or not. I thought we've been pretty clear throughout the years that I love him, regardless of what he thinks of me, and that my involvement extends to whatever he wants of me, and some fair non-negotiables. Mostly safety things, chores his dad agreed on when I asked, that kind of thing. I couldn't get in with my therapist this week, but I do have an appointment next week, and we will try to formulate a well thought out response back. I'm certainly not a perfect person or parent, but I won't intentionally sabotage him further. I do love a good revenge story, as do I, but that's not it when it comes to my kids. I've talked to the youngest 3 and they've reassured me that it's their choice whether or not they go, and I won't push them on it. I've been reminding them that he is still their brother and it doesn't sound like him. Mostly for Charles, he's very outspoken and protective. Charles is supposed to meet with him this weekend and I'm hoping we'll get some clearer answers from that. And then, 5 days later, April the 23rd, we got this update. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post. Most of you were kind and offer good advice. I appreciate it. Before I give an update, I just want to answer a few frequently asked questions. 1, I am not an affair partner. My husband didn't cheat on his ex-wife with me. We met about a year after they divorced. She was already engaged, not to current stepdad. Not that that really matters. And 2, Ben was at the dinner. He's autistic. I went into it some more in the comments, but he was very upset. He doesn't understand the argument. He was mostly upset at Adam for saying I'm not their parent, and then at all the siblings for fighting with each other, as we heard before. Anyways, the update. The short is, if you guessed it was related to biomum, you were correct. I didn't want this to be the case. Oh, interesting. That is really interesting. throughout all of this, I sort of thought it would be Alice. But the fact is Biomum is super interesting. Okay, and by the way, I'm sure a lot of you in the comments got that before me. A lot of you listening right now, but I wasn't sure. Adam rescheduled with Charles for Monday, citing Easter weekend. Fair enough. He also texted my husband to let him know that him and Alice would be doing Easter with her parents. We expected that. At some point on Sunday, Ellie texted Alice. Just a reminder, Ellie is OP's youngest child, just 13 years old. I'm not sure what exactly was said, but it prompted Alice to spill everything that was going on with her parents. I've met them a few times, but they live a few hours away. They encouraged her and Adam to reach out to us to clear everything up. Monday, we dropped Ben off to Biomum's. He stayed an extra night for Easter fun. A few hours later, she began to blow up my husband's phone as Ben mentioned the fight. My husband answered one call in which she was screaming and promptly hung up. He texted her that the siblings argued, everything's fine, and that if Ben has any further questions, we will talk about it when he's back with us. From some of the things she texted, we knew she was the root of all of this. Monday, Adam also met up with Charles, and he did come clean. Charles texted us to see if it was okay if they come over after, and we said yes. I'm not going to lie, Adam looked a mess. He immediately began crying and apologizing. The short and sweet is that he's been trying to mend bridges with his biomum. Their wedding isn't 60 people, it's blown up to about double that, and they've been struggling to figure out how to pay for it. At one of their visits, Alice let it slip, and Adam's biomum jumped to help pay for things. It slowly snowballed from there, from small requests to big requests. I'm not sure what the final nail in the coffin was, but it ended with biomum requesting I not be there. Adam said it was easier to hurt me than risk World War III with his biomum. Alice's parents were less than pleased to find out how they've been with the wedding and budget, and even less so at Adam's biomum's antics. They're trying to figure out how to start covering the payments that biomum has made. We've decided to help some with this. Adam also asked if we could meet again in a few days with Alice, and we've said yes. There's still a lot of ground to cover for this to be close to mended. I'm still hurt, but mostly I'm angry on behalf of my oldest son. Okay, there we go. Very interesting final line, I've got to say, and very interesting story on the whole. But the first thing that comes to my mind is, why are you feeling sorry or angry on behalf of Adam? I don't understand that. You should be feeling angry because of Adam, not for him. Like, he is the one throughout all of this that has shown no backbone at all, has never stood up for you, and has chosen money over his stepmom, who's been in his life for how many years? Like, over 20. That's crazy. Like, I get it. You love him. But you've got to open your eyes and see that he is the reason why this has happened. He doesn't need the money. Like, he's been dumb enough to be like, oh, the wedding's got too big. Close it down then. Make it smaller. It's not that hard. Like, if you're choosing money from someone that, you know, you don't really like that much, or I suppose, look, it's just biomum, yeah, but there's been a lot of issues, it seems like, throughout their lives together. And then you're then just neglecting someone who's been amazing in your life because of a little bit of cash for a wedding, then you are a disgrace. I'm sorry, you just are. I mean, someone has said in the comments down below, which made me laugh, is it even legal for Alice to get married to an invertebrate? Citing the lack of spine that Adam is showing here. And I don't know the rules. I've never tried. I'm not like attracted to ants. But yeah, can you marry an ant? Let me know in the comments down below. I mean, it's just crazy, like the lack of loyalty. This woman has raised you since you were 5. And you've chosen a little bit of cash because you accidentally invited too many people to your wedding. You are a genuine disgrace, Adam. I'm sorry. Like, I can have a go at Alice here, but I wrongly thought it was her fault. Maybe she's like, okay, we need to have a bigger wedding. We need more people. Let's get the money from your biomum, which is, again, bad, but we don't know that for sure. She is also to blame, of course. Biomum is clearly just a weird person, but I'm sorry. I've got to look at Adam and no further, because he could have stopped it and said, no, I'm choosing love over money, but he didn't. And ultimately, that all comes down to him. Think twice before you judge someone for vaping. This happened earlier today. I was at work, outside on a smoke break. I vape. One of my co-workers came outside and took it upon herself to start lecturing me. You know, vaping kills people, right? There's metal and other chemicals in vapes that are so bad for you. You should quit and look to God for guidance. She just kept going on and on about how badly I should quit. Now, I don't entirely disagree, but I find it rude to just comment on someone else's habits unsolicited like that. So, I responded the best way I knew how. Well, there are a lot worse things I could be doing right now instead of vaping. My mum got me hooked on drugs when I was a young teen, and I've been clean off fentanyl and other hard drugs for about 9 months now. Vaping helps me to do that, so right now it's one day and one thing at a time for me. This is all true, by the way. Her eyes grew so wide and she immediately apologized, saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know all that." I don't expect people to know, but maybe next time she will think twice before giving unsolicited advice. Okay, wow, there we go. 5 more stories to come in this episode, but firstly, I've got to give my thoughts on this. Look, I get it. She's not wrong, is she? Vaping isn't good for you, and it would be better if nobody in the world did it. And I think OP accepts that fact, right? They're like, I don't actually disagree with her. Yeah, I accept it's bad for me. However, to do that to someone that you don't know, although maybe she does know you because it's one of your co-workers. I don't know. It's a weird one. Obviously, you're not good friends, clearly. And she can't know that much about you. But yeah, to say that to one of your co-workers without knowing what's going on in their life, because clearly she doesn't know, it's very, very poor. But yeah, I'm glad you told her the truth and put her back in her box. Now for our next traumatized them back post. That was my son. I just recently lost my son to police gunfire. Every day I have what I call murder tourists drive by the house since the media exposed the address. I've had a couple of situations where I'll walk up to a parked car and ask what they needed. They will ask if I know anything about the shooting. I look at them and say, "That was my son." The look is priceless. I'm literally watching the blood drain from their faces. The best instance was when a friend and his wife were over. We are sitting in the carport. 2 Karens in a golf cart drive by, rubbernecking. They circle around and pull up to us. "Can you tell us anything about the shooting?" My friend jumped up like a mama bear. I tried to stop her, but she walked very quickly over to them and scolded them. I couldn't hear everything, but what I did hear, and I'm probably paraphrasing here, was, "We just wanted to know what happened." Well, you don't need to know, do you? I love my friends. Well, that's one of the saddest posts that I've read from this subreddit. Fair play to you for doing so well here. I just want to also mention what OP left in the comments down below. I'll put it up on screen right now. They say, "Also, I will say that I've never seen such an outpouring of love and support from neighbours, some of whom I've never met before. For every murder tourist, there are 3 people opening up their hearts to me. There are good people." Also, I forgot to mention, one woman gave me $60 to help with funeral expenses. She said she wasn't rich, but she understood what I was going through because of personal experience. That's awful. I mean, a truly awful thing to happen to you. I guess that you are traumatizing these people back, but I can't even really talk about that because it's so unimportant compared to what's happened to you. I think the thing that I would say is murder tourism. Like, is that really a thing? You see a shooting on the news, you know the address, you go to that location and you're asking questions to local people. Obviously, there's a decent chance that someone's going to know something and someone's going to know someone that was involved in this if you're asking people that are on the street. It's crazy that this even exists. Murder tourism. Is that a thing? That is disgusting. Anyway, 4 more posts to come. Let's get into the next. Homophobic parents? Be even more homophobic. Hi, for some context, I, a 16-year-old guy, am gay. I'm only out to my group of besties and my brother though. I'm part of a Muslim family. They're wonderful, and I love them with my whole heart and soul, but my mum and stepdad, my mum's 42 and my stepdad is 46, are homophobic. My brother, who's 13, isn't as much, though he does have some slight aversion to the LGBT community. So, we were on a road trip on our way to some auntie's house, and me and my brother were watching Mean Girls on my phone, having a good time. The jokes were funny, and my parents were chatting indistinctively. That is, until a certain joke happens in the movie. I think the joke was about some kids holding a gun, saying they used it to hunt animals and homosexuals. I laughed, because, haha, get it? Southern Americans, am I right? But my dad was not having it. In the middle of the road, he turns to see me and my brother and says in a kind of threatening tone, "Did I just hear the word homosexuals?" I said, "Yeah," and that it was just a joke in the movie. Then he said, "I better not see you watching that weird gay content," with my mum just nodding and saying yes. I was livid, but I quickly came up with a good answer to that. "Oh, don't worry, Dad. The joke is about shooting down gay people, as it should be," I said with a smile on my face. My brother just looked at me with a face that screamed, "Dude, what the F?" My mum looked at me with a similar face, but slightly worried, and my dad just muttered, "Well, don't say that. You must respect others." He just tells me to stop talking and says that we must be good to others and respect them and blah blah blah. Since then, they haven't even muttered a word whenever I mention something LGBT related. The biggest reaction I got was when I got an eye roll from my mum when I pulled out the 1,500 species of animals have homosexual tendencies, only one is homophobic card. I kind of feel like a jerk for that, but I felt really frustrated with the whole homophobia and hypocrisy from other Muslims. I'm proudly Muslim, but I really hate when people say that it's the most peaceful religion and Muslims are so kind and loving, when my very existence is a crime in the eyes of my family and the entire country I live in right now. Anyway, remember to treat others as you'd like them to treat you. Have a wonderful day, and remember to drink water. Well, you know what? Thank you very much, OP, because I've just forgotten. So what I'm going to do now is take a lovely long sip. Oh, and a cheeky gargle as well. Yeah, very interesting last couple of sentences from you there, saying that you don't like the fact that Muslims are or Islam is the most powerful religion and Muslims are so kind and loving when your sexuality isn't actually accepted by Islam. Interesting point. But yeah, it's a weird one. I don't want to get into the depths of this in terms of your religion versus how you actually like interact with other people and appreciate other people's sexuality, gender, whatever it is. It's a bit of a lose-lose situation, I think, if I go down that road. But you handled yourself well there, I suppose. And hopefully, at one point, you will feel comfortable enough to have that conversation with your parents. But I don't know, it's going to be tough, isn't it? Now, interestingly, the next post comes from that same person. They've posted again. Am I, quote, acting autistic? Well, guess why. Hi there, they say. I recently posted another story in here and you all really liked it, the one I just read, so I thought it would be nice to share another one. This one is not about homophobia though, it's about autism. For some context, I suspect I have autism. I have hyperfixations, I stim quite often, I'm kind of noise sensitive, I have trouble communicating, etc. I'm currently going to a psychiatrist, but it's not to get a diagnosis. My mum doesn't think I'm autistic. And one of my besties, who has autism, also thinks that I'm actually probably autistic. So this story starts with me leaving the prayer room at my school. This prayer room is located right next to some stairs. Luckily, not many people use them, so I don't have to deal with kids often. Not this time though. As I was leaving, a kid, 12 or 13-year-old guy, was going down the stairs and sees me walking out of the prayer room. And I guess he didn't know what that place was for, so he asked me what I was doing there. Not only did my social anxiety kick in, but I also don't really like talking about religion, especially to children, so I wanted to leave the conversation as soon as possible, while also being funny. And I said, "Oh, magic rituals, of course." I chuckled a little, but the kid was pretty serious. He looked at me dead in the eyes and says, "Why are you acting so autistic, bro? Stop that. It's so weird." I was obviously flabbergasted. I assumed that I was acting a little robotic. It happens sometimes, especially when I get socially anxious, which I assume is what he meant by weird. But also, dude, I don't know you. So I did something that kind of gives me mixed feelings. I looked at him with a smile, and this is the conversation that transpired. "Make a wild guess," I said. "What?" "Well, you asked why I'm acting so autistic, so make a wild guess as to why." His face goes from, "What does that even mean?" to wait, no, to oh dang, in a couple of seconds. It was priceless. He immediately starts apologizing, and I just tell him to please not talk to me ever again. It turns out he's one of my brother's besties, so my brother comes to talk to me soon after, saying that he didn't mean to insult me, he just uses the word autistic often. I told him it's fine, but I was still pretty offended, and that his friend shouldn't call others autistic with bad connotations. I told my friends about that, and they were all pretty supportive. I didn't tell them about the clever comeback part of the story though. I think I was a bit of a jerk there because he was just a kid, and I insinuated I have autism without having a proper diagnosis, but whatever. I still got some laughs out of it, at least, and the kid's insult was actually kind of affirming in the end. Remember, children, don't tell strangers at school that they're acting autistic. Drink lots of water and have a nice day. Now, I would drink some more water, OP, but I just did, and I don't think the people listening to this want to hear me gargle again, but I will drink some more very, very soon. However, update. There is an update to come here. So, I just left school and I saw my brother and two of his friends. One of them is the kid from before. I'll call him Alex. The other will be Patrick. I was chatting with my brother and Patrick says hi. My brother proceeds to ask me which of them I like most. Here is how the conversation went. It's worth explaining that both my friends and my brothers know about the story above, except, the clever comeback part. My brother says, Patrick is nice, right? I reply, yeah, I like him better than Alex. Alex then says, what, do you think I care? Oh, sorry, I reply. Am I too autistic for you to care? Immature as frick? Yeah, but his face was priceless. Also, F you. I just left the first batch of my finals. I've got no patience to deal with this BS. Alright, get in the comments down below, guys. What do you think? Is using words like autistic, gay, etc. to insult people, is that funny? Let me know in the comments down below. Very interested to hear your thoughts. I think I probably know the answer, but I want to know your thoughts anyway. And be honest. Alright? Seriously. There's no hiding. This is real life. What the does that even mean? Someone left a funny comment actually that I'm just reading here. One time in high school, some kid spilled yogurt in his lunchbox and his friends were like, that's so autistic. I ignored it because I didn't know them and was too anxious to speak to them. But in my head, I imagined saying, well, I'm autistic and I didn't spill yogurt. Yeah, you're just dumb. Simple as that. All right, 2 more stories to go in this episode. The 5th one is very, very strange, to be honest. And the last one is ultimately pretty sad. Now moving on to our 5th post. He made it weird. I made it weirder. Once upon a forever ago, I lived in a small town and had dated 2 friends from a group at different times. Years apart. Small town etiquette was observed. One night I was hanging out and one of the friends I hadn't had much of a rapport with decides to loudly say across the room, so, you slept with both friend 1 and friend 2. How was it? Who was better? Obviously he's trying to embarrass me, but our flings weren't secret. Again, small town. So he was just being a jerk, trying to stir drama, which again was weird, as only friend 2 was there. Now I'm a few drinks into my night at this point and unbothered, so I replied just as loudly, dude, if you want to know how they are in bed, you should F them yourself. He left me alone after that. I mean, that is a quick, witty response, and it's the perfect thing to say in this situation. I can't say anything more than that. I don't actually think that that's that weird of a comment to say. I mean, like, I've definitely said stupid stuff like that before, so I'm not going to say that your friend's really, really weird. Just a bit of banter. Depends on the way he said it. Like, if he was actually wondering who was better, then that's odd. If he was saying it as a joke and one of the people's in the room just to kind of embarrass them, I think that's pretty funny, personally. But great reply. Really good reply. Put him back in his place. Love it. And now for our final traumatize them back post. You're too old for Superman. For context, me and my grandpa were super close. He was the father I never had, and I was basically his daughter. Whenever my mum thought my dad was getting too rough with me, I would spend days to weeks at a time with my grandparents, and my grandpa was everything to me. I lost him in 2020, and it broke me. So now, 5 years later, me and my mum were going through some of my grandpa's stuff, and we found his old Superman keychain. I wore this keychain on my purse, religiously. One day, while out with friends, this older white woman walked up to me and said, completely unprompted, mind you, she wasn't even a part of our conversation, nor did I or any of my friends know this lady, "You're too old for Superman." I looked this woman dead in the eye and say with my best dark humor smile, "Thanks, but that keychain isn't because I'm into DC, it's because it belonged to my grandpa, who's been dead for 5 years now. I almost unalived myself after losing him, but glad to know your opinion on one of the few things I have left of him." Yeah, all that was true. I've tried unaliving myself more than once. and that was one of the worst years of my life, and losing him was the straw that broke the camel's back. The poor lady looked horrified and scurried off. I make dark jokes and laugh about them all the time, so I was kind of shocked that my friends seemed concerned about me, but I guess getting reminded of my dead grandpa and making a joke about it does turn some heads. Oh, there we go. Bit of a sad story to end this episode, but at least you traumatized her very, very well, and you came out of that as the moral victor. But goodness me, imagine hearing that and just, you're like, oh, I was just trying to say you're not a kid anymore. Yeah, you're not allowed to say that to a randomer you don't know. Like, why is it your business? It's a sort of weird thing. I feel like when people get to that sort of elderly state where they sometimes can just like not care anymore, they lose their sort of inhibitions, which I think is a good thing, because they're like, you know what, I'm old, I'm not going to be around for too long, I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it, I'm going to say what I want to say. I respect that. But then you get to situations like this where it's too far and you are getting too nosy in other people's business, and at that point you need to just like settle down. But yeah, interesting thought. Elderly people just knocking about saying what they want. I'm kind of all for it, but when they step over the line, they need to be shut down just like this. That was brilliant. My husband of 20 years is cheating on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. How about that for a title? I am a 41-year-old stay-at-home mum. My husband, who is 48, who we'll call Paul, works in finance. We've been married for nearly 20 years. We have 2 kids. Eric, our 18-year-old son, currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are both the light of my life. My marriage with my husband has grown somewhat stale over the years for a myriad of reasons, such as his work schedule and how I've aged poorly since we first met. Our son, Eric, has a girlfriend who is also 18, who he's been dating since they were freshmen in high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She's his first love, and she's someone I've always considered as family. This makes the whole situation emotionally excruciating for me. Last week, I inadvertently saw my husband's phone screen, and I got a glimpse of a text thread between my husband and Amy, just to remind you, our son's girlfriend, and I read what looked like a message of her telling him that she, quote, misses sucking his you-know-what. I froze in place, in complete disbelief. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I must have misread what I saw. However, I didn't misread it, because over the last several days, I discovered a file on his computer filled with tons of BDSM porn. He clearly has an addiction. He also has saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed, it was still the proof I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments, and I saw more of their interactions. I wish I'd never looked. They were filled with mean, horrible things at my expense, with him constantly comparing me to her. He'd call me fat and old, among other things, with Amy LOLing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul has been cheating on me, but never in a million years could I have fathomed something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that I know wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye to it, being naive, acting like it was maybe our daughter's, even though that made zero sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm completely devastated. I don't even think words can adequately describe the dread, anger, shock that I feel right now. I'm totally overwhelmed as to how to handle this, because obviously action needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychic blow this will be for my son. I've got no idea how to even broach this completely effed up topic with him. I wouldn't wish this predicament on my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this scumbag in the first place. And then my mind started to race, realizing that I started noticing specifically unusual behavior from him around the same time that Amy turned 18. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? There's so many layers to all of this, and I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread about it all. None of it makes any frickin' sense. How did this happen? Am I that much of a stupid idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I've not confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first about this. I share my story not for sympathy, but in search of understanding and perhaps advice from those who might have had to grapple with deep betrayal. Thank you for listening. Okay, wow, what a first post. Absolutely insane. Let's jump into some comments straight away. Somebody said, if she's freshly 18, isn't this illegal? There's no way they weren't doing anything illegal before she turned into an adult. Also, even if it's not, the age gap is over 3 decades. Your husband is suspect as anything. Police immediately. OP replied, she's been 18 for 5 months now. I haven't been able to gauge when this all started. I'm trying my hardest to figure that out. He deletes his text every couple of weeks, it seems like, so I've not been able to pinpoint when this started. OP also added this additional info. Thank you everyone for your overwhelming support. I'm sorry if I haven't responded to your private messages. I'll get to them when I can. I'm dealing with a lot right now and taking a lot of steps that need to be taken. I'm trying to be smart and strategic with this truly surreal and terrible situation I'm in. I want to be clear that not telling my son about this was never something I was considering. I didn't mean to make it seem that way. I was just saying that I'm intensely dreading it, but obviously it needs to be addressed. It's one part of the many steps of my overall plan. I'm currently playing dumb, collecting as much evidence as I can so I can be prepared for anything and everything. I'm going to protect myself and I'm going to make sure I don't put myself in any potential harm's way. I'll post a more thorough update soon when I can, but please know you've all touched my heart so much and made me feel less alone. Goodness me, just imagine being OP and being in this situation. Not only is your husband cheating on you, but he's cheating on you with your son's girlfriend, and you're going to have to be the one to tell your son. Oh my goodness, just disgusting. Anyway, 5 days later, we got the first update in this story. Title was, I'm divorcing my husband because he cheated on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. My brother connected me to a very tough junkyard dog type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all of his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach, completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18 to 22 or so. Oh my word. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums and spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits which looked kind of like a girl's Catholic school uniform and a French maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense that something was awry when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and I told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months ago, like on my husband's iCloud, almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me that Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details with what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also non-stop insistent that their friendship only became romantic/physical recently, and before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. Right, so turns out your husband is pretty weird. He's been grooming an underage kid and has a serious fetish/prawn addiction. Wow. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty. He had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy, justifiably so, of course. She's recollecting moments and times that she watched her dad interact with her friends, and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself, and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever. Okay, so that is it for the first update. Let's jump into some comments. Somebody said, "How is your son holding up? What's developed between him and Amy?" OP replied, "He's not spoken to Amy yet since finding out the news, and I'm not sure if he ever will again." Somebody else said, "Have you confirmed if the thong you found was Amy's? This situation is effed up." I confirmed that it wasn't my daughter's. She said it wasn't hers. And I know it wasn't mine, so who else's could it be? Wait, are you saying that they effed in the master bedroom? Well, don't cheaters always use their married bed? Yes, I believe he did. OP also added this in the comments. Both me and my son are going to get tested and checked out as well. There's no telling how many different women he's been sleeping around with. As for Amy, her mum has been in contact with me, and Amy has been threatening to run away with him because they are in love. Honestly, I don't know if I should say this, but I actually feel bad for Amy. Like, she's just been groomed. And if Paul is active with lots of other different women, which, let's be honest, he could be, and I mean, he's committing serious offences here by grooming an underage girl and potentially even having, a sexual relationship with her before she turned 18, then, Amy's having to deal with someone like that in her life who has manipulated her into thinking that she loves, not thinking. She does, I'm sure, love him, but yeah, in that manipulative grooming sort of way. I mean, just disgusting. Okay, now let's get into the second update. This was posted 5 days later. Thank you again for all the love and encouragement. It gives me comfort and means so much to me. I've received many comments and messages accusing me of faking this story, which oddly also provides comfort because all of this feels unreal even to me. It validates my own feelings that there are people out there who can't even fathom this being true. I wish it were fake. I've been focusing on and worrying about how others are feeling over this, somewhat ignoring my own feelings, which I'm trying to change. I range from anger to numbness like a light switch. We're all safe and still at my brother's house. We're very careful and his house is secured. Paul has tried to call my cell phone several times a day. I'm just refusing to interact with him, and I will have my lawyer handle all correspondence. He scares me, frankly. My brother has a very secure house with an alarm system and deadbolt locks. We feel safe with him. Both my son and I got checked out and tested. It appears so far we're both clean based on the immediate rapid tests, but in the coming days we'll know for certain when the lab results come in. I'm not overly concerned. Eric is scheduled to see a therapist early next week, which is very good and needed. He's not himself right now. He seems a bit shell-shocked, and I'm concerned. He internalizes a lot, and it's hard to get a read on what's going on in his head. That being said, he's thoughtful and has been talking with me, asking me how I'm doing and everything. He's not interested in corresponding with his dad at all. He calls only my cell phone, and he hasn't tried to reach out to either Eric or Mary. That in and of itself is a little bit weird, not even trying to reach out to your kids. Strange man, but I think we already knew that. I get the sense that Paul is extremely nervous. He's scared, and I think deep down knows that if investigated thoroughly, he'd be in big trouble. That's what my gut is telling me. I still think about the Zoom call with him, and the more I think about it, the more it looked like he was a man whose entire world was crashing down on him. The panic in his face was very apparent. I offered Mary for me to make an appointment with a therapist as well, but she doesn't want to see one yet. She said she's open to it eventually, but wants time to herself. She's been asking her friends about her dad and if they experienced any creepiness from him. Her friends were open and honest with her, and apparently they felt like he stared a lot and sensed his hovering presence whenever they were over. One of Mary's friends went so far as to say that she felt like he was checking her out a lot, like looking at her rear and complimenting the colour of her yoga pants. At the time, no issue was brought up about it, but in light of everything that's been happening, it seems strange now. He would sit himself in different areas or vantage points to get a good view of her, she claimed. He also asked questions about what kind of friend group or which clique they were in at school. He kept asking about if they were popular girls. I'm completely embarrassed that they had this experience at our house. As for updates on Amy, which is the main reason I wanted to write this update, I completely agree that she is also a victim, as I said. A lot of people have been emphasizing that, and I agree. I've done everything I could in my own power to indirectly get her opportunities to get help. Like I said, I told her mother, and she's been updating me on everything. Amy, though, unfortunately, is still living in her deluded reality, and I can only pray that she'll eventually come to her senses. She doesn't want to see any doctors or therapists at all, and has been constantly trying to reach Paul because, again, she believes they're in love. From what I've been told, she hasn't been able to get a hold of him, and he's been avoiding communication with her completely. Amy blames me for that and believes that I took away his devices and that I'm very controlling. Any truth that her mother tries to convey to her is met with conspiracy theories and hostility. Amy looks at me as a villain and still sees Paul through rose-coloured glasses. Her mother showed her screenshots of his dating app profiles and matches, but she refuses to believe it, saying that I photoshopped it. According to her mum, Amy keeps saying things like everyone is just mad because she found herself a real man, and that I'm jealous because she, quote, takes better care of him than I do. That's in line with some of the conversations I screenshotted, where a lot of what Paul says is him complaining about things that I don't do for him sexually. Right now, she's insistent that she and Paul will be together in the long run. Ugh, he's honestly a slimeball. I can only hope that Amy comes to her senses, but me directly intervening doesn't feel like it would be productive at the moment. Maybe eventually though. Okay, now let's get into the third update 11 days later. So, the divorce. It's very much underway. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it all because it's ongoing, and I want to make sure that everything is going to go smoothly. I got temporary custody of Mary. Paul also has to pay temporary child support. There's a protective order. Paul can't contact us or come near us. Right now, we're just focusing on getting through this legal mess. Again, I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to mess anything up, but what I'll say is I'm very confident, divorce aside, that there's overwhelming evidence against Paul that will get him in serious trouble and will impact him for the rest of his life. I'm sure eventually I can share more about that, and don't worry guys, there's a very recent update, as I mentioned, that I'm presuming will go into detail about that. I know a lot of people are concerned about his predatory ways, and I just wanted to convey this, even though I have to be vague right now. Justice will come. All of your concern about how my kids are doing psychologically means a lot to me. Eric has been to therapy twice over the last 2 weeks. I know some people thought I was dismissive of him and acting like he's doing okay. I very much know that he's hurting internally, and we're doing everything we can to make sure he knows he's supported and loved. My brother has been amazing in spending time with Eric and Mary, and both of them have confided in him about a lot. My brother has a very healthy marriage, and both he and his wife have really stepped up to the plate for all of us. Mary hasn't seen a therapist yet, but she promises that she will be open to seeing one soon. Her anger has mostly turned into sadness, I noticed, and I hope that I can get her to see a therapist soon. Her friends have played a key role in this whole thing, and that is something that Mary has been grappling with as well. I know a lot of people are invested in the well-being of Amy too. There were a lot of questions about whether Eric and Amy would still see each other at school. It sounded like they go to the same school, but they actually don't. Eric and Amy went to the same junior high school and knew each other even then, but Amy ended up going to an all-girls Catholic high school, while Eric and Mary too stayed in the public system. We all lived in the same town, and over the summer, heading into freshman year is when they were getting to know each other and when they started dating. Now, I wish I had a better Amy update, but it's actually gotten a lot worse since the last update. Paul has actually been seeing Amy despite her mother trying to force her not to see him. She tells me that Amy says she's 18 and an adult and she can do what she wants. Her mum's in a precarious spot because if she kicks Amy out of the house for defying her, something that she's threatened to do, which I think is a mistake, she would obviously just run to Paul permanently. The time she spends with Paul has actually increased over the last week, despite the fact that Paul initially ghosted her when all of this first hit the fan. There were some days Amy would just be gone for hours on end. Look, there's only so much I can do with the Amy situation, but again, I do believe things will turn around soon, given what I know about Paul and what's to come. I can only pray that Amy can get help and guidance when more poop hits the fan. I'm doing everything I can with my own kids and my own mental health, and Amy's mum knows she has my support, and that's all I could really provide. Okay, so that is it for the third update. The fourth and final update is coming, and that was posted just a couple of weeks ago at the time of recording, obviously in 2025. So over a year since this all started. But first of all, let's have a look at some people's comments. Someone said, the only way, to be honest, that Amy will see how messed up Paul is when he eventually sleeps with someone else, or he accuses her of seducing him. Even if he ends up as a sex offender, I don't know if that's enough to convince her that he's a creep and dangerous. Now, I'm curious as to what Paul's intentions are. He ghosted her, and now all of a sudden they're meeting up again? Worst case scenario, he's going to have her falsely testify, which I don't think will take much convincing. Honestly, you and Amy's mum have done what you could. The best thing Amy's mum could do is sit and wait, but don't kick her out. Let her know she'll be there for Amy and she'll still have a roof over her head. And pray that she snaps out of it soon, instead of years later when she's burned bridges and wasted her life on a man who took advantage and ruined everyone else's lives. Yeah, interesting point about Paul. I'm not entirely sure. There are many ways that you could think about this. It's obvious why he ghosted her in the first place, because he's been caught, and whether or not he knows or knew he was going to be in any legal danger or whatever, doesn't really change the fact that it's pretty obvious that you'd stop seeing that person immediately. Now, as to why he would now see her again, well, either you could argue he may think that he's fine legally, and if he's fine, then why can't he keep seeing this girl? Or what I think is most likely is that he doesn't have the self-control to not see her. And it's actually like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to keep seeing her. I'm addicted, so I don't care anymore. I think that's probably what's going on. And he's probably not able to stop himself because Amy's like, I want to see you, obviously. And he held out for a while, but then actually he's like, no, I want to get back with this 18-year-old who I groomed. Pretty disgusting man, but yeah, we already knew that. Okay then, now let's get into the new update. As I said, this was posted April 14th, 2025. Titled, My predatory ex-husband fled to Cambodia. My kids and I are still here and going to therapy. Okay, OP starts by giving a quick recap that we obviously don't need to go into, but she does say this at the end. Mary and Eric were both traumatized and they are still in therapy a year later about it. Overall, the amount of scorched earth that Paul caused is mind-boggling to me. I am still rattled by it, and I don't think I will ever recover, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Anyway, let's get into some new info. Paul and Amy dated, in quotation marks, for several months after we started the divorce proceedings. I tried my hardest to keep in touch with Amy's mum to see if there was anything we could do for her to realise Paul's predatory behaviour and maybe speak out against him to see if he slept with her or did anything to her when she was younger, but she refused to talk about anything. She was in love still. Just a few weeks before the divorce was supposed to finalise, Paul disappeared. He drained what was left of our shared accounts, what I hadn't already locked down, and left. We found out later that he bought a one-way ticket to Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I had no idea. I got a notification from the financial tracking alert that my lawyer set up. That was it. We were close to finalising everything. I had full custody of Mary. He wasn't contesting anything. Then he stopped replying. Didn't show up to court, never filed anything, nothing. It was just like he dissolved. Amy, according to her mother, was devastated and she's completely gone mentally right now. She's basically nomadic, sleeping at friends' homes around the area, refusing to come home. My lawyer pushed for a default judgment and the court granted it. The divorce is technically finalised now. I have custody. He's in violation of the support order, but none of it matters. He's gone. Cambodia has no extradition treaty, no child support enforcement, nothing. There's no way to make him come back, no way to make him pay anything. We've got no actual clue where he is in Cambodia. One thing that chills me to my core is how notorious Cambodia is when it comes to trafficking minors. Oh my goodness, that didn't even cross my mind. That might be a bit of a step, but I don't know. This guy is clearly like, he just is a nonce. Anyway, Eric's in college. He keeps his distance from everything to do with Paul. He doesn't say much, but he's steady. I know it still hurts, he just doesn't show it. Mary's quiet about it too. She still brings up little things sometimes, things she remembers now in a different light. She asked me the other night if I thought Paul would come back. I didn't answer. I don't think she really wanted me to. Like, the effect this has had on these two kids, obviously you as well, OP, but on your kids, like for you to find out that your dad's been doing this. I also don't really think it matters necessarily if you're Eric or Mary. I know it was Eric's girlfriend, but like from Mary's perspective, like my dad has been having an affair with my brother's girlfriend, and he's been my dad obviously my entire life, and I've trusted him with my life. Like, how do you ever recover from that? Anyway, let's continue. I don't know what Paul's doing in Cambodia. I don't know who he's talking to or what his life looks like now. I've had a few people tell me to report him to the FBI or try to push for an international investigation. I've made the calls. I've filed what I could, but there's only so much they can do when someone hasn't technically committed a crime that's provable in the US. I don't believe he left the country just to avoid alimony. I think he's a predator, and I think he's a criminal. Yes, I agree with that. That's all for now. I don't have much else to give. I'm still here, my kids are still here, and we're trying. Thank you to everyone for their concern and care. It really warms me. It means so much to me. Well, there we go. That is the end of that story. An absolute crazy one, and I'm not quite sure what I can possibly add as any further context other than what I've said throughout the story, and yeah, I think the story sort of speaks for itself. Terrible situation. I hope everyone involved, well, obviously apart from Paul, can move on with their lives as well as possible. But as I just said then, like, I just don't understand how you can ever get over something like this happening. I think this is worse than like Paul just dying and your dad being dead. Assume you didn't know about this stuff. Like, for example, let me give some context there. If when I was 18, this happened to me, I would rather my dad just died and how I was dealing with the grief of that rather than this. Like, I think this, what I'm trying to say, I've obviously word this awfully. I think this emotional trauma is going to have more of an effect on the kids than a death, like the death of your parent. I think it's much worse than that psychologically. So I don't know how you're going to recover from that. I don't know. I think just the answer has to be therapy and time. But what I will say is, OP, you've done everything you can. I mean, you've acted unbelievably throughout all of this, not just with your own kids, but with Amy as well and her mum. So fair play to you. And yeah, I hope you continue to, I mean, look, you're going to look after your kids, obviously, but don't forget about yourself throughout all of this. You've also been through like this crazy story. My girlfriend of 4 years just told me that she's pregnant. I'm a woman, so it can't be mine, but she swears she didn't cheat. What do I do? I'm still in shock, so bear with me. My life feels like a soap opera right now. Apologies, this will probably be long. Here's some background. My girlfriend Anna and I have been together for 4 years, with intentions of getting engaged sometime this year. To clarify, we are 2 women in a relationship. I am a lesbian, I always have been, but Anna is bisexual and has had serious relationships with men in the past. This has never been an issue for us because we love each other and we have a healthy and stable relationship. But now, as you can imagine, I'm second guessing everything. So what went down? In the last month, Anna had been complaining about putting on weight, particularly in her stomach area. Anna is thin and athletic, so the little belly she developed is noticeable. She's been going to the gym more and started eating much healthier than she usually does. We didn't notice any improvements with her weight loss though. But I told her it takes time. She'll eventually lose the weight. Pregnancy never ever crossed my mind, for obvious reasons. Last week, she really started freaking out about her weight gain, so she scheduled a doctor's appointment. She had the appointment yesterday afternoon, and afterwards, she called me at work and told me that we needed to talk. I could tell she'd been crying. I'm freaking out at this point now, thinking that she's terminally ill or something. I start tearing up, asking her to just tell me what's wrong, but she insists on meeting at home. I leave work immediately, and I get home to see her sitting on the couch, her face puffy from crying. I'm shaking, and tears are streaming down my face. I ask her about the doctor's appointment and what is going on. She can barely get the words out through her sobs. She tells me that she went to the doctor and that they told her that she is 13 weeks pregnant. I stop crying, but my brain is trying to comprehend what she just told me. All I could say was, "What?" over and over. She is still sobbing, saying that she's so confused and she has no idea how this happened. I've never really seen her in a state like that. She seems genuinely upset and confused, but then again, so am I. As I started registering what is going on, I ask, "Did you sleep with someone?" And she only starts crying more, swearing on her life that she didn't sleep with anyone. So I'm like, "But you did. You're pregnant. There is no way that you didn't cheat on me." To which she replies, "I have no freaking clue how this happened, but I swear to God, I didn't sleep with anyone. You have to believe me." We go back and forth for 30 minutes or so, both of us still confused. I told her that I needed to think, so I called a friend and spent last night at his house. I've been talking with friends and everyone is confused, but agreeing that Anna must have cheated on me. I keep playing over our conversations in my head though, like if she knew that she had slept with a guy and that she could be pregnant, why would she go to the doctor? Why wouldn't she have just gotten an abortion secretly? She could have used the Plan B pill just in case, like she could have gotten away with this. Maybe I'm being foolish here, but it genuinely seems like she had no idea why she was gaining the weight in her stomach. A couple of nights we talked at length about possibilities as to why she might be gaining the weight just in that region, and pregnancy never crossed our minds. I'm also playing back the potential date that she could have cheated on me, considering she's 13 weeks along. We live together, we have similar work schedules, both 9-to-5 jobs, and if I'm thinking of the right week that this could have happened, there's nothing that stands out of the ordinary to me. There weren't any late nights or suspicious activity that would have concerned me. I feel like I'm driving myself crazy, and I feel like I can't trust her. She's been texting me asking if we can talk, and I told her that I need more time. I want to believe that she is telling me the truth, but I can't think of any reason how she could be pregnant without having slept with some guy. But it's all so confusing given the situation. So, Reddit, what are your thoughts? Does my girlfriend have a case of lesbian immaculate conception, or am I being a fool for doubting that she cheated on me? How do I handle the situation, and how do I talk to her? Everything feels very confusing right now. Thanks in advance for reading. Wow. What a post. So much going on here. Let's jump straight into the comments and see if the people of Reddit had any sort of idea what might have happened. I'm not even sure what to think right now. Somebody said, "I think you know the right answer here. You don't just get magically pregnant. Yeah, she could have hidden it and secretly gotten an abortion, but in all likelihood, she didn't think anything of it until it was too late. Maybe they used a condom and it broke, or he pulled out or something and she was convinced it couldn't be a pregnancy, or just didn't want to believe it. Denial is extremely powerful. Some people will deny till the day they die, but she is in a relationship with you, a woman, and she's pregnant. This isn't one you can deny. Logic says she may as well come clean, but good luck with that. 99.9% chance she cheated. The only other explanation is she was drugged and assaulted or something, but that is a big leap into the let's find a way to rationalize this zone. Good luck with this. My money is on she was unfaithful, as it's the obvious effing answer. Oh, yeah, I think this is true. I mean, I don't want to believe it, but this has to be the most obvious answer, right? I mean, there's no other way this could have happened, surely. If she is pregnant, then she has to have had sex with a man. It's just a fact, right? I mean, as you said, unless she is the coming, once again, of Mary, the mother of Jesus, then I don't know what else is going on here. OP replied to this comment saying, Maybe the answer that she cheated is obvious here, but it's also difficult to explain to a bunch of strangers just how upset she was when she told me. I can't expect internet strangers to know the intimacies of our relationship, but I wouldn't be posting here if I didn't think there was a slight chance that she was actually telling me the truth. That is a good point. Only you, OP, know in that moment when you had that conversation face to face and you could see how distraught she was. Only you know, based on everything that's happened over the past couple of months as well, from when she did get pregnant. You should be able, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like you would know in that moment, or you'd at least get a massive sort of inkling as to whether or not she was telling the truth or she wasn't. Because I don't know, like if you know someone that well, yeah, they could be an amazing liar, but I think when you know someone that well, 9 times out of 10, you know if they're 100% telling the truth or if they're not. You could just sort of sense it. Things don't add up. You just know that they're not telling you everything. The thing I'm not getting is like the months of her being really concerned about her weight gain, and if she had slept with a man, wouldn't that be one of the first things that comes into your head? The fact that you may be pregnant? Surely. Even if you'd slept with a man with a condom or, pulled out or whatever, that would still come into your head, surely. I mean, it just would have to as a possibility, not a likely one, but a possibility. So the fact that she just didn't even think about that once the entire time, I mean, maybe she did and just didn't tell you, I don't know. Let's see what happens anyway. That's the beauty of this subreddit. Here is an update. So, a lot has happened since the original post. Thank you to everyone that responded with helpful comments. It seems like most people came to 3 possible conclusions with Anna's pregnancy. First of all, she cheated on me and got pregnant. Second, she was the victim of a drugging scenario and doesn't remember anything. And third, the doctor is wrong. Wow. I didn't even consider that third option, but that could be true, I suppose. I mean, there's a world in which she isn't actually pregnant, although do doctors get that sort of stuff wrong that often? Maybe they do. But anyway, this post, this update, comes 3 days after the original. After spending the night at my friend's house and ignoring Anna's calls and texts, I decided to see her the next day to talk. We made a plan to meet at our house after work. I wasn't sure what to expect from our conversation. I thought I might get a confession of her cheating on me or something along those lines. So we met at home. She asked me how I was doing, and I told her that I was still pretty confused and upset. She understood. Then I said, I have to know. Did you sleep with someone, or cheat on me, or come near sperm in any way, shape or form since we've been together? She swore up and down that she did not. Very sincerely, she said, I know that this is freaking crazy and literally unbelievable, but I swear to God, I didn't cheat on you. I am just as confused as you are. I still wasn't entirely convinced, so I asked her about the doctor's visit specifically. She did not get an ultrasound. They only took a urine sample. I guess she told them her symptoms. They took a urine sample, concluded she was pregnant, and sent her on her way. I asked why they gave her then a specific gestation period, and she didn't know. I'm not entirely sure why they did either. Of course, I was like, did you tell the doctor it's impossible that you're pregnant? That you've been with a woman for the last 4 years? And the doctor gave her grief for it. Essentially implied that she must have slept with a man because she's pregnant, and that's why she was experiencing her symptoms. I'm not sure if this is a common occurrence for a doctor, but she said he seemed completely unfazed by her claims of not having slept with a man. For those of you that mentioned her period, Anna has an irregular period. Sometimes she gets it, sometimes she doesn't, so there was no cause for alarm when she didn't get her period for 3 months. Because A, she can't get pregnant, and B, more sex for us. I guess the doctor saw the signs of a positive pregnancy test and a lack of period, and pregnancy was the most reasonable option. After hearing about that, I said that she should schedule another doctor's appointment with a different doctor as soon as possible. She told me that she had, and had the appointment the next day, which was yesterday at the time of writing. We decided it was best that I go with her to the appointment. Again, like, this isn't adding up. If she has cheated and your partner is saying to you, look, come, I promise you I'm being honest. I just don't think that would happen. Maybe it would. The denial would still be going on, but anyway. The first order of business with the new doctor was the ultrasound. I sat with Anna as they put the gel on her stomach, and I was honestly sweating bullets. I kept thinking to myself, what if she is actually pregnant? I thought I was going to pass out, but Anna seemed calm. They confirmed that Anna is not pregnant, but she had a mass on her ovary that was a cause for concern. It was one of the most emotionally confusing moments of my life. Anna and I looked at each other, not sure if we should celebrate the non-pregnancy or cry or what. Anna still has more appointments, but the new doctor gave her the diagnosis of stage 1 ovarian cancer. This explains the positive pregnancy test and the bloated stomach. This also explains why she wasn't able to lose the weight in her stomach. The doctor also mentioned that the irregular periods should have been a sign of concern for Anna, as women with irregular periods can be more at risk for ovarian cancer. I'm devastated and hopeful. Anna is still in shock, as she's been through a lot in the past couple of days. I'm supporting her the best I can, and we are figuring out a game plan. Naturally, we're both terrified of what's to come. This will be a huge part of her life, and mine, and probably put our plans to get engaged, or get married, or have kids on hold, if she can even have kids after all of this. Anna even joked about the fact that she wishes she actually had been pregnant with the Messiah. That way we could keep the kid and not have this horrible diagnosis. So, I guess this is a happy/sad update. Thank you to everyone for reading. Goodness me, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm not quite sure how to react to that. On the one hand, you find out that your partner hasn't cheated on you with a man and wasn't lying about her being pregnant. On the other hand, she now has cancer. Yeah, it's kind of a lose-lose there, but there we go. Let's get into the comments before I give my final thoughts. Somebody said, "I'm so sorry to hear this." The first doctor, though, who was so submissive of her insistence that she hadn't slept with a man, he should probably be scolded for this. Opie replied, "When she explained his reaction to me, I was livid. Call me an angry, man-hating lesbian, but the second doctor was a woman, and she was honestly one of the most helpful and supportive doctors I have ever encountered." So there we go. I don't really know what to think about this. Whether you see this as good news or bad news. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think? Is this overall good news or bad news? At least it's stage 1, which is the best stage you can get, if there is a best stage you can get of any cancer. I think, I'll have to look this up, but I do believe that the majority of people who are diagnosed at stage 1 of ovarian cancer survive and then have a very healthy rest of their life, a normal life expectancy after that. So the 5-year survival rate is significantly high, typically around 93 to 95%. I mean, it's still not great, but 95 out of 100 women apparently will survive their cancer for 5 years or more after diagnosed. Okay, I mean, to be honest, those odds are pretty horrible, but you know, at least she hasn't cheated on you and isn't pregnant with someone else's baby. Like, it's a horrible thing, obviously, to get cancer. Don't get me wrong, but I'm inclined to say that honestly, this is not the worst possible outcome for you, OP, and for you two together. Like, I don't know. You guys have been together for 4 years, right? You're 29 now. Your girlfriend's 27. You know, you're probably thinking of each other as potential life partners. I mean, you've spoken about having children in the future, getting married, etc. So you are. If you then find out that actually she has cheated on you with a guy and she's pregnant, that is just, I don't know where you go from there in your life. But at least now you know the truth and you guys can work together on this and get through this. And yeah, as I just looked at the stats there, you've got a great chance of having a great life together, which obviously if she had cheated on you with a guy, you had probably a 0% chance of having a great life together. So obviously not a great thing, but honestly, I think the other option was worse. But let me know in the comments down below. I mean, it seems a bit weird saying, oh, the cancer option is the best option. But yes, let me know. Is this a relatively positive update or still a negative update? If you get what I mean. Comment down below. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts. Mum threw the gender reveal I didn't want without me. It seemed like many were amused by my crazy mother's antics, shared in my "Mum still complains we named my daughter after mother-in-law 1.5 years later, my mother-in-law is deceased" post. So here's another funny, ridiculous story from my pregnancy. As I said in the introduction, guys, if you don't know what that story is, you can go and watch it another time if you like. You don't need to listen to it now, but it is linked down below, and it will also be on the end screen of this episode if you want to click through. I'll remind you later. Don't worry, let's get into this one. Disclaimer, this took place almost 2 years ago. My mother is narcissistic and abusive. She pretended to change when we were adults. All that went out the window during my pregnancy. Everything had to be her way, or she'd scream I was making everything about me, ignoring that she was making everything about her. One thing she demanded early on was a gender reveal. I still don't know why. She and my father didn't have them for my brothers or me. My brothers also wanted a gender reveal. When I asked why, I was told because they wanted to. I said no. I think they're a bit creepy, to be honest. This is not a judgment on people who do have them. I just didn't want one for us. My husband agreed. I offered a compromise to my mum to add pink filters to the ultrasound photos. But that wasn't good enough. My mother planned a gender reveal anyway for a weekend I was visiting. I'm about 7 hours from them, and she didn't tell me. She planned a virtual party with pink gender reveal decorations. My dad let me know and I was upset. I talked to my mother and she told me she was compromising by doing a virtual gender reveal because I didn't want to party. I told her I appreciated the thoughts. I was in therapy for family doormatism at the time, but it wasn't something to compromise on because it wasn't wanted. I couldn't even cancel it myself because she didn't tell me who she'd invited. She and my brothers hounded my husband and me, trying to get us to change our minds. Even my dad reached out to ask me to just go along with it to keep the peace. After weeks of this, my mother came to us and meekly said she understood we didn't want it, but that she'd bought some pink poppers on sale. She said it would mean a lot if we could please pop them and take some pictures with just my husband, dad, and brothers when we visited. It was a completely different way than she'd been talking to me. I agreed, since I was actually taken aback, and a few photos for posterity couldn't hurt, right? Plus, she asked so nicely. Well, a week before we were to visit, I was flooded with calls and texts congratulating me on my baby girl. My husband and I had only told immediate family at that point, as I'd suffered a late miscarriage previously. My mum had changed the date and had the gender reveal a week early. My husband and I weren't even in the States. She filmed it and sent it to everyone in my family but my husband and me. She also didn't include any of my husband's family, though she had their contact info. I tried to call her, straight to voicemail. 4 hours after sending it to everyone else, she sent the video to me. It features my brothers breaking a piñata. When it explodes in pink powder, my mother says, "That's right, we're having a girl." Then they pop pink poppers. Honestly, I think it's pretty cringy. Finally, she answered me. I asked why the heck she had the gender reveal and sent the video without my involvement. She dismissed me and said, "I don't know why you're so upset. You didn't want the gender reveal anyway." Like, yes, that is exactly why I was upset. She stole my pregnancy announcement and specifically did the gender reveal I didn't want and hid it from me. I was so upset, I cancelled visiting the following weekend and I spent time with my husband's family instead. That is when we agreed to use my mother-in-law's middle name for my daughter, which is covered in the post I mentioned at the beginning. Hopefully you get some enjoyment from this story. I was so upset at the time, but looking back, the absurdity makes me laugh. And as I said in the intro, guys, if you do want to see the story that the OP is referencing there, which by the way is another great story, which pretty much just shows how crazy OP's mum actually is. I mean, we've seen it a bit here, but trust me, if you've not heard that story, you won't know this, but there's a lot more that's going on there than we've just seen in this one story. But yeah, link to that is down below in the description. It's the second story in that episode. But just wait, just watch it at the end. I'll put it on the end screen. I'll tell you all about it when we get to the end of this episode, because there are 3 more entitled parent stories to come in this one. As for that story, all I can say is, you know, the other day we saw a crazy story about a lizard gender reveal. This one is arguably even more stupid. I mean, the people whose baby you're revealing aren't even there and don't even know what's going on. That is the dumbest gender reveal ever. And the other one involved a lizard. A baby lizard. By the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about there and you haven't seen that episode, well, you're missing out. Look, the moral of the story, guys, clearly, is subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on, and watch every single episode so you don't miss out on crazy stories like the couple I've just referenced there. I'm sorry, it's your loss. Let's move on. All right, now for our second story. Entitled Client Learns that Professionals Can in Fact Walk Away. I work as an engineer. I do some consulting on the side, but typically only for people I know and as a favor. A good friend asked me to help his in-laws who were doing some fairly massive renovations/additions. I agreed solely because he asked me to. This isn't something I have any interest or need in doing except as a favour. It's an old house and had a can of worms written all over it with some of the changes they wanted to do. Now, he warned me that the mother-in-law can be unpleasant, but that was an understatement. She seemed to think that because I was being paid, I charged probably a tenth of what a business would. She could snap her fingers at me like a servant. I had a few unpleasant emails with her, but it was tolerable. She was rude when I was pointing out issues with their plans, but nothing too extreme. That changed when I started trying to find a time for me to stop by and inspect a few areas of the house to verify some information. I offered times to stop by on the weekend, but that didn't work for her. I tried evening times, still a no. Nope, she wanted me to stop by during my office work hours because that was best for her. When I told her no, this gets done on the weekends or in the evening, she went from rude to incredibly hostile, telling me that she is paying me, lol, and that I work with her availability, not the other way around. I CC'd my friend in on the chain, told them I was out, and to have fun working with whoever they get. My friend apologised. I said no worries, not my problem anymore. She emailed back, quite stunned that I was walking away, telling me that it's not how business is conducted. I didn't bother responding. About 3 weeks later, I get an email from the husband now, asking me if I would reconsider, and he promises that his wife won't speak to me or be involved in any way. I hear from my friend that while the quotes came back much higher, which was tolerable for them, it was how long the wait was that wasn't. They just bought this house and wanted to move in ASAP, but it's an incredibly busy time of year for the industry. It turns out, when companies you reach out to are drowning in work and you have a potentially convoluted and messy project, they aren't chomping at the bit to get your business. So now they're going to lose the trades they lined up because design would be a month or two out. I passed on the request as I struggled to believe she'd be kept in check and I had no desire to bail her out. My friend didn't care, said it was nice watching her attitude give her consequences that actually affect her. And there you go, that is how you know this isn't a one-off. When this woman's son-in-law is saying, you know what, this might not be a bad thing for her. To be honest, actually, I'll go a step further. Your friend was probably thrilled to see his mother-in-law get some consequences for her behavior finally. Because I reckon, I don't know how old you guys are, but I reckon he's been dealing with her for quite a long time now. I imagine you guys are, in your 30s probably, maybe in your 40s. I doubt this is sort of a new marriage in terms of your mate and his wife, because if you're like already thinking, oh god, I can't deal with this woman anymore. Like, I'm happy that someone has said, you know what, F you, and said, no, I'm not taking your business because you're just rude. Then you've probably been in her life for quite a long time. The problem is, because obviously your friend OP is her son-in-law, he can't exactly go like, you know what, shut up, grandma. It's not going to work. So he's got to let other people do it for him. And that is why I reckon he's so happy that, he finally saw her attitude give her the consequences that she deserved. Good stuff from you, OP. Oh, my rich friends. We can't be friends anymore. So tonight, an acquaintance I haven't spoken to in at least 5 years calls me. Marcus, I'll call him. Marcus did make a little chit chat, then asked me what I'm doing for work. I say I'm between full-time stuff right now, but looking. They agreed that the job market is hard, and how they're divesting themselves of a business they've had for decades, as the suckers aren't buying anything anymore. I give a little laugh because that's a weird way to refer to clients, but maybe Marcus is a little down. Marcus then mentions about their home in New England and their home in the West Coast in a highly desirable area on the beach, and that they want to split the entire summer between the two locations because it's so hot in the South in the summer. I say something along the lines of, well, that's a heck of a problem to have, and we laugh again. That's when they drop their entitled request on me. Marcus wants someone to care for their extremely obese, nearly bedbound elderly auntie that lives with them 7 days a week, no days off, for 3 months. The best part? This home isn't air conditioned. They want to offer a fellow human $200 per week since it's, quote, light duty, but they say I'd have my own room. I own a home. It's not interesting to me. I explained that I was going to have to pass on this amazing offer, and then Marcus got really insulted. He whined and said they didn't know anyone as nice as me. And since I was a flight attendant before this, I know, quote, the first aid and serving food stuff. Again, I declined and he was confused. I said, would you work for $200 a week? Because I won't. He said he'd call me in a week to see if I changed my mind. I just blocked him as soon as the call ended. Wow. Yeah, $200 a week. What a great price. This is so dumb. Is this guy really complaining about how, yeah, his business is really struggling when you have a home in New England and a home in the West Coast in a, this is a quote from him, by the way, a highly desirable area on the beach, and you're in a position to split your summer across these two like great properties, I imagine. But then you're only willing to pay somebody $200 a week, no days off, for 3 months to look after your bedbound elderly auntie who requires a lot of attention, clearly. But then you've said in the next bit that actually, no, it's not really that much duty. I don't know. This guy is just an absolute gimp. Now for our final entitled parent people story. I will tell you how this deal works. One early spring, I decided to sell our travel trailer. It was only a few years old, looked new inside and out, priced right, and it was prime time of year to sell. I knew it would be gone after a showing or two. The first family shows up after an odd phone call. The wife does all the talking, but made it clear that her husband, Glenn, makes the decisions in the family. She asks a ton of questions on the phone so she could give the info to Glenn. Glenn is in the room with her as this is going on. Weird, but whatever. They roll in, and I meet Glenn. He tries to avoid eye contact and is trying to play a power game. The wife and kids are in love with the camper, polite and friendly. Glenn is a jerk. As I answer his questions, he occasionally smirks. At this point, to be honest, I'm not interested in selling him dog poop fresh from my backyard, but I'm not lowering myself to his behavior. I give him the respect he does not deserve, taking the high road, since his poor wife and kids don't need to see me telling him to GTFO. Eventually, Glenn says, I'm going to be giving you X $1,000. We'll be back next weekend with the check. He barks at his wife and kids to get back in the car. I tell him I didn't agree to any price. Maybe it will still be around next weekend, maybe not. He smirks again and drives away. Glenn's price was exactly what I would have accepted from any potential buyer who wasn't a jerk. At that point, I was clear about one thing. Glenn will never end up with my camper because, well, you know. The next day, a couple shows up to look at the trailer. They are slack-jawed at the price and condition and ask what I'll take for it, as they can meet me later in the day with cash. I offer to sell it to them for Glenn's price. A few hours later, I have a fat stack of $100 bills in hand, and they leave with the trailer, thrilled with the deal. The next Friday, just as I expected, Glenn's abused wife calls. Okay, that's probably a step too far, but fair enough, those are OP's words. She tells me that they got a loan and want to pick the trailer up tomorrow. I play dumb and I ask what she means. After she explains it again, I drop a bomb. I'm so sorry, but it's gone. I tell her that all Glenn had to do was respectfully offer the amount he told me I would be taking, then leave a deposit check, and you'd be picking up your camper tomorrow. I reminded her that she was standing there when I told Glenn that we hadn't agreed to a price, and it was still very much for sale to whomever wanted it. Finally, I told her to make sure that Glenn knows that it's sold for his price the next day. So sad. It seems that Glenn was a D who got the D on this one. I mean, yeah, the top comment here is poor wife. I agree. I'm not sure I'd go to the extent of saying abused wife, but yes. I just don't get why you'd be with a person like this. Like, what a loser. You can just imagine him walking into the garden or whatever, the porch, being like, yeah, I know what I'm going to do here. I'm going to get this camper for way under the asking price. Like, yeah, I'm going to show this geezer who's boss, and I'm just going to like try and alpha him. Ultimately, you've alphaed yourself, mate. Congrats. You are a beta. Well done, Glenny. You beta boy. This is literally really stupid, but she's really upset about it. So, I am 48, and my daughter, who is 23, has a blue-tongued skink who she heavily adores. Now, for those of you watching on YouTube, OP has added some pictures of her lizard, which I'm showing on screen now. Also, guys, in case you were wondering, and I didn't know this myself, skinks are a type of lizard. They're characterized by their smaller legs in comparison to typical lizards. They also apparently have no pronounced neck, which, yeah, I can sort of see that. Where's your neck, mate? Anyway, OP continues. She jokingly refers to it as her daughter. I found it weird, but she says it's because it's the closest thing she'd have to a child, and she feels a strong emotional bond, similar to a child. She's decided to remain child-free for multiple reasons, and I've been very supportive of this decision. Well, she recently took her skink to the vet for a checkup and she was excited to find out its gender. Afterwards, I got a text asking if I'd come to her gender reveal party she was having. She explained it was just a small get-together with cake and food for her friends that she hasn't seen in a while, with the gender reveal being mostly a joke and a way to make fun of real gender reveals. Well, I didn't come. I didn't see a point. It's just a lizard, and I'm a busy person. She later called me and expressed she was kind of sad I didn't come because it had been a while since I'd seen her, but she understood I was busy. I told her she couldn't actually expect me to come to a gender reveal for a lizard. She said that it wasn't a real gender reveal, it was more of a joke. Really, it was just a small gathering to catch up with everyone. I told her if that was the case, she should have just called it a gathering, because I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. She got quiet for a minute and then turned my words around, claiming I wasn't supportive of her decision to be child-free. I told her she can't possibly expect me to treat a lizard as a granddaughter. She said she didn't expect me to, but it was clear I didn't respect her bond with her lizard and her decision, and she just wanted to see me, and my reason for not coming was hurtful. I told her she was being ridiculous over a lizard. She claimed it wasn't over the lizard and it was a gathering and not even centered around the lizard, but I stick by what I said. It's ridiculous to have a gender reveal for a lizard. She hung up and I got a message from her best friend about how I'm a jerk for treating her that way. But I don't think I'm the jerk for not wanting to go to a party for a lizard. Right, before I give my thoughts on this, and goodness me, I have a lot. Firstly, OP has left a few edits below her original post. Number 1, my issue is that she said the party was a gender reveal. If she called it just a party, I would have come. But calling it a gender reveal makes it sound like it's for the lizard, and I'm not going to that even if it is a joke. 2, I don't know why it matters, but the skink is a girl, which is why I said I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. Okay, not quite sure how you know it's a girl before the gender reveal, but I guess that sort of adds to it, like clearly this is a joke. Anyway, number 3, even though I don't agree with my daughter for being child-free, goodness, I've been supportive and only shown mild frustration. The reasons she's decided to be child-free are that she claims she's asexual, she just doesn't want one, she has emotional baggage and feels unable to care for a real child, she fears pregnancy, and she has a carrier gene like me and doesn't want to go through what I did. I had 4 miscarriages and a highly defective child that died after 3 months due to the gene. Yes, there's been slight tension between us because I think she just hasn't found the right man yet. She never dated growing up, and her other fears are unnecessarily exaggerated, but it's ultimately her decision, and I don't resent her. And 4, we haven't seen each other in 3 months. I'm a single mother, and we've always been close, which is why she invited me with her friends. I just didn't want to go to a party with a lizard. And if it wasn't for the lizard, she should have called it a party instead of a gender reveal. Okay, well, not quite sure what I've just read there, but that definitely has to go down as one of the weirdest posts I've read in a long time. And you'll be surprised to hear that what I've just said there has nothing to do with the fact that this story revolves around a lizard gender reveal party. I actually don't really care about that at all. That's completely fine. Like, that's just a bit of fun. I get it. I would do the same sort of thing. That's just funny. Like, who does that? A gender reveal party for a lizard. It's just good banter. It really is. But the reason I say this is so weird is because this woman, this mum, just is so clueless. Like, it's actually unbelievable. She just sounds like the most boring mum, or like strictest, least fun mum ever. No. Your daughter isn't seriously being like, oh my goodness, please come and find out that the gender of my lizard with me. I can't wait. And by the way, I'm not taking away from the fact that clearly, like, you know, her lizard is very important for her, and I completely understand that. But to not understand that this is all a bit of a joke and it's just really an excuse to see her friends and you, who you haven't seen her for 3 months, quite a long time, yeah, you must just be pretty dumb. I mean, I'm not sure. I feel like there's a little bit of resentment here because, you know, number 3 there from the edit, even though I don't agree with my daughter being child-free, I have been supportive and only shown mild frustration. And then you've given the reasons as to why pretty much you think she's just making everything up and she hasn't found the right man yet, in your words. Yeah, not the most supportive of parents here. To be honest, reading through the whole of the first post, it's not that surprising that you just didn't understand this entire premise. But anyway, let's get into the comments of people on Reddit and see if they are along the same sort of lines as what I'm saying. Okay, let's get into the comments. Somebody said, I think this is the issue right here. OP is stingy with love. Why should I love a stupid lizard? Well, why can't you get interested in the things your kid likes and share her excitement and joy? Just the little things? No, she's never going to have kids, so you could have seen that adorable, quirky kid you raised to be as funny and sweet as she is, and gone to her party and mingled with her, probably also quirky, funny, sweet friends, and had a lovely time. But no, what a loss. How sad. OP replies to this saying, I'll be honest, I don't have any particular feelings for the lizard. I think it looks like a snake and that freaks me out, and it's incapable of feeling emotions, so I don't know why she feels a bond with it. She even named it Ellie, a human name, so she can tell people, I have to get home to Ellie, so she can act like she's busy with a kid at home, which I believe is an unhealthy way to cope with her social anxiety. She should learn to get comfortable with saying no, instead of using a lizard as an excuse to neglect social obligations. Wow, what a terrible reply. That is shockingly bad. There's so much wrong with that. Fair play, OP. Somebody else said, huge, you're the jerk here. At first, I was like, okay, I get it. She jokes about it being for the lizard. Then I got to your updates. She claims she's asexual. So you've totally invalidated your 23-year-old daughter who knows very well by now who the heck she is. Your following comment, I think she just hasn't found the right man she never dated growing up. Hello, she was waving a huge flag here. She's asexual. If she came out as lesbian, would you say she just hasn't met the right man? Next, you invalidate her fears of going through the same heartbreak that you went through trying to have other kids, from miscarriages to a child who passed after a so short life. Not everyone is as emotionally stunted as you that they could speak of those situations so devoid of feeling. I'm actually tearing up thinking about what you went through and how in your small mind you wish your own surviving child would go through it as well, just to pop out a kid. Yeah, great point. Get over yourself, mum, in quotes, and yes quotes, because you do not deserve that title any longer. I hope this shows your amazing asexual daughter that her life is 1,000 times better without you in it. Also, for your sake, go and get therapy. You need to reconnect with your emotions. Wow. Hard-hitting words, but I completely agree with them. OP replied, saying, I wouldn't say I've invalidated her. She says she doesn't experience sexual or romantic attraction, nor has a want for it, which is only because she hasn't found the right person yet. It's impossible for someone to not feel such a natural feeling. Everyone feels it. It's a normal chemical in our body. I've tried to explain this to her. For some reason, she fears physical interaction with men. I think her fears probably stem from not having a father because he left when she was 3. I wonder why he left. No offense, but you know what I mean. Yes, it was hard on me. There were many tears, and it's partly why her father left. Okay, that's probably not the reason, but that's what mothers do. She knows how important to me it is that I finally gave birth to a child that actually lived to grow up, and it does hurt that she wouldn't continue for me when I went through that pain. That's why there's been tension for her decision, and I'll admit, I'm unhappy with it, but I've been as supportive as I can, and I haven't been mean about it. Yeah, clearly. I mean, this person is just an absolute clown. And then one final comment, which I think sums it up pretty well. So wait, this commenter says, and then they quote, afterwards I got a text asking if I'd come to her gender reveal party she was having. She explained it was just a small get-together with cake and food for her friends that she hasn't seen in a while, with the gender reveal being mostly a joke and a way to make fun of real gender reveals. But then you say, 2 paragraphs later, I told her she couldn't actually expect me to come to a gender reveal for a lizard. She said it wasn't a real gender reveal, that was more of a joke. Really, it was just a small gathering to catch up with everyone. I told her if that was the case, she should have just called it a gathering because I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. You just told on yourself, OP. She'd already told you it was a joke and you refused to go out of spite because she won't have kids. Then you had the gall to fricking gaslight her. In fact, she told you twice that the party wasn't actually for the lizard, but to the very end of your post, you keep saying it was for the lizard. Very good point. OP replied, she kept labeling that it was a gender reveal though. She bought a cake that says it's a girl and popped a pink sparkly glitter popper too, which I think is ridiculous. The lizard can't appreciate or love this. It can't even feel emotions. This person just gets more and more stupid with each and every reply. It's insane. Have you considered the fact, maybe because 100 people have told you this pretty much in the comments, and your daughter explicitly told you this multiple times, that the lizard gender reveal might just be a joke, and actually, she just wants to see her friends and you? Crazy thought, I know. Now, what is great about this post is that the next day, OP's daughter's best friend actually found it on Reddit and replied in the comments, saying this: "You are the jerk. And I'm surprised you had the gall to post this, knowing your daughter frequents Reddit. This is the best friend that texted you. You blocked my number, not that it matters. You know it wasn't about the reveal, it was an excuse to hold a party. Look, we had fun without you. The lizard had an adorable tiny party hat. We had cake that said, 'It's a girl,' and we popped a glittery, sparkly party popper. It got all over the walls and ceiling, and our friend John. And we started making jokes like, 'Call the EMS for John,' and 'They do say gender reveals are dangerous. Who knew?' But I'm sure she sent you the video so you know what you missed out on. We made fun of it for the most part and blasted The Last of Us music, since that's where Ellie's name comes from, not because she wanted an excuse for her social anxiety. She struggled with her identity for years, and you were never supportive. When she was trying to figure out if she was lesbian, you sat her down for 30 minutes and explained how it's normal to get feelings confused, but people weren't meant to like the same gender, and it was probably just friendship feelings that she was confusing. You're part of the reason she never explored her sexuality further with your 'sex is natural' and 'you can't have a relationship without sex' comments, knowing not only is she mildly autistic and already struggles to understand and comprehend her emotions, but she's also a victim of a negative experience. You know she has a codependency issue, and living by herself has been really difficult for her to overcome, and Ellie has helped immensely. She was upset you didn't come when she wanted to see you because she adores you, and you didn't even call her for Thanksgiving." Wow, and there we go, a scathing comment from OP's daughter's best friend, but it's all very valid. The one thing I'm thinking, and to be honest with you guys, I was thinking about this before I read that last comment from OP's daughter's best friend. I was sort of getting autistic vibes, and I mean that in, you know, in every correct sense of the word. Like, I genuinely did think that OP might be autistic or be somewhere on the spectrum. Because, forgive me if you guys think I'm wrong here, but I think it's impossible for her to not understand what is going on here, unless she has some sort of autism. Like, it's obvious that the gender reveal party thing is a bit of a joke. It's just a bit of fun. It's not like really serious. I know OP's daughter really loves Ellie, but that's not actually the point. I think anyone could see that, unless perhaps you had some sort of difficulty. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But now hearing that OP's daughter has autism, and knowing that autism is very genetic, I think something like 80% of people with autism have inherited it. I might be wrong there. I'll check that actually, but you know, if that is the case, then maybe autism runs in this family and OP has it as well, and that could explain why you've reacted the way you've reacted, which just makes no sense to me. Yeah, apparently around 80% of autism cases can be linked to inherited genetic mutations. So maybe that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like there's just too much going on here that cannot be explained without thinking that maybe OP is autistic. Because, you know, if you read that whole thing again, knowing that OP is autistic, I think it all makes sense. So I don't want to assume that you're autistic, OP, but I don't know. You guys watching right now that do have autism, I know there'll be quite a lot of you. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think? Are these autistic tendencies? Is this potentially something that autistic people struggle with? You know, that lack of emotional awareness and understanding? Because for someone like me who isn't autistic, this is a very, very strange post. I mean, look, there are people out there that aren't autistic and are just sort of emotionless and just weird. And maybe she does actually slightly resent her daughter because she, you know, doesn't believe in anything apart from being heterosexual, and she really wants a granddaughter, so she just doesn't like her. That could also be the case. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree with me or not on that one? And what are your thoughts in general? But overall, some post. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. Neighbor tried to get my mum fined over our shed, so I got his $40,000 pool filled in. I live with my mum. She's quiet, keeps to herself, never bothers anyone. A few months ago, our new neighbour decided to report her to the city for having an illegal shed in the backyard. It was total BS. The shed's been there for years and has full permits. An inspector came out, checked everything, and left without saying a word. But the neighbour, smug, proud, thought he'd scared us. So I did a little digging. It turns out his brand new pool was way too close to the property line and illegally built over a utility easement. I reported him. I attached photos. I quoted city codes. 2 weeks later, the city ordered him to either move it, impossible, or fill it in. He lost the whole thing, $40,000 down the drain, literally. Now he gets to look at our completely legal shed every day while standing over a pile of dirt where his pool used to be. Mum sleeps great now. If there was ever one story which just epitomized the notion of don't get involved in other people's business when you don't need to, I think it's definitely this one. Why are you bothering? Why are you attempting to make your neighbors scared of you? What sort of weird power play and struggle is this when I can't even see personally what you'd possibly be achieving by doing this? It's just so weird. Do you purposely want your neighbors to hate you? If so, well done. You've made your life significantly more difficult for yourself for absolutely no reason. Oh, and also you've lost a $40,000 pool. Congrats. You are an idiot. If you genuinely thought you would be able to do this and there'd be no repercussions and your neighbors not be like, okay, well, you've done that to me, I might consider doing something back to you, then you're just a clown. Well done to OP and your mum, but this neighbor, what an idiot. Client didn't pay me, so I made his life heck. I once had a new client not pay me. I opened my business 3 months prior and I was struggling. I needed the money and I agreed to take payment on the Friday as they needed to add me on the system. I had a small B&B and he had a contract in the area. Dinner, bed and breakfast for a bunch of people for 6 days. And then they left in the middle of the night. I tried getting the money from him for 6 months. This was just after my dad passed and I had to take care of my mum. Also 2 months before my wedding. The result was that I couldn't pay a few bills and I had to loan money. It took me years to pay that off because we were struggling. The following 8 years, I would call him on a private number in the middle of the night. I set alarms and I'd call him to wake him, or when I'd wake up to pee, I'd call him until he disconnected his number. I registered his number and email on every spam, scam, and prawn website I could find. I wrote bad reviews using his full name and business all over the internet until I heard it closed down. I commented that he's a thief on every Facebook image he uploaded until he made his profile private. When that happened, I'd message his friends that he stole from me. I messaged every one of them. His business was in another city and I googled the area and called all his neighbors and told them that he sells drugs out of his shop. I'm pretty sure I've caused him more damage than the money he still owes me. Now my business is established and I make good money, but I'll never forget the dude that kicked me when I was at my lowest point. Wow, there's not much worse than running from an Airbnb in the middle of the night. Like, that is the lowest of the low, especially given that you've been there for 5 nights already. Like, so embarrassing. But yeah, good on you, OP, for really going hard on this dude and hopefully other people as well. But like, a bunch of people for 6 days and they leave on the 6th night, like, that is shocking. I suppose maybe you take away from this the fact that you got to take payment up front, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of B&Bs that I've been to or that my parents have been to, because they used to stay in B&Bs when they visited me at university. I think they just had great relationships with the B&B owners, and you know, it's a really nice sort of idea at bed and breakfast. I think you're pretty much staying in someone else's house. It's much more sort of familiar and comforting, I think, than a hotel. I think that's why my parents liked it anyway. But you don't want to say to your clients right away, pay me in full, because you shouldn't have to do that. But maybe that's what you have to do with people you don't know. I don't know. But again, the fact that you've caused him more damage than the money that he still owes you is a good thing, but this shouldn't have happened in the first place. Just disgraceful. Mock me? Fine. I'll waste your time. I've been a fan of revenge stories for a little while now, and finally I have one of my own. It started 2 days ago when I received a call from somebody claiming to be from TELUS, a phone company. They can reduce my monthly bill by 40%, he claimed. This is a scam that's been happening, and I knew it was when he asked me what my monthly bill is. Well, if you work for TELUS, you would know that, I told him. And he said, oh yeah, you're right, and he hung up. About an hour later, same call, different guy. I told him to remove my number from the calling list, and he just goes, na 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 na, in a mocking tone before he hung up. Now, that annoyed me. I was waiting for them to call again, but they didn't for the rest of the day. Yesterday, in the afternoon, my phone rings and it's them. I'm going to waste as much of their time as possible. Same spiel as last time, 40% off my monthly bill. What is it? Well, I told them that my last bill was $2.15. No, that's not right, he said. My bill needs to be at least $20 a month to apply. Okay, well, let me go back to the previous month then. $42. I qualify for a free new iPhone too, if I'm a senior. So I tell him I'm actually very senior. What's my date of birth? August 17th, 1901. He questioned the year, but in more of a do I have this correct way than were you born over 100 years ago way. I don't know how I managed to stay deadpan and not let out a giggle as that red flag went over his head. Let's see what else I can get away with. My email address? Yes, let me spell it for you. MANMEETBALLDEEP. Wow. If you want to work that one out, guys, go ahead. @gmail.com. His accent was thick. The T's and P's sound the same. So I said, man meet bull deep dot man meet bull deep in your butt. That went flying right over his head, and he just comes back with, it says that's not a valid email. Well, your systems are wrong, I say. Then he asked me for my credit card number, so I read him the number off my Pepsi's barcode. Then he asked for my driver's license number. I don't have one. I'm too old to drive. Goodness me, I'm over 100. So he asked for any kind of ID. I offer a student ID from 1955. He tells me to wait. I get put on hold and transfers me to somebody else. The whole process starts again, and the same questions get the same replies. Now, the second guy had one or two more brain cells than the first, because when I told him my email address and followed it up with the man meet bull deep in your butt, he goes, what did you say? I said, man meet bull deep. After that, he asked. I said, man meet bull deep is my name. He continues, but I knew I almost blew it. He gets my date of birth and asks if I'm really 125 years old. I say no. I'm 123 and I'll be 124 in August. He asks for my driver's license. No, I don't drive, and he won't take a student ID. How about a passport? No to that. He asks for my address, so I give him the address of the closest police station. Okay, now you want my credit card number? I read the barcode to him again. That's not right, he said. A visa starts with 4, so I tell him the barcode again, starting with a 4. But that's only 13 numbers. I think you're wasting my time, sir. You're goddamn right I am. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Phone scammers and scammers in general are the runts of the earth. They are vermin. So anytime I see any sort of reversal done to them, I'm instantly like, yes, this is great. And this is another one of those examples. The fact that they are so dumb to not understand that you were conning them and just pranking them long before they did is just ridiculous. Like, fair play to you for being the oldest person that's currently alive at 123 years old. Like, that's nuts. I think I actually saw the other day, yeah, just a week ago at the time of recording, a woman living not too far away from me in Surrey, Ethel, is 115 and she is now the new oldest person in the world. So, you know, these people didn't realize that you had actually secretly broken the record by 8 years. Yeah, they're just dumb once again and they deserve everything. Now for our fourth revenge story. Don't think I can fight back? Watch this. This has been an ongoing dispute since September when management changed, and I finally got some revenge/justice with the help of the Labour Board. I work alone on the front desk, so I do not get breaks free from work very often, which I'm perfectly okay with. My issue is they don't pay me for that work. In March, I went to go and talk to the financial controller about it. I didn't have the foresight to secretly record, but he ended up saying the law does not apply here when I tried explaining why what they're doing is illegal, and I gave him a printed copy of the employment law. 2 weeks later, I went to go and talk to him again, but this time I was secretly recording him and his responses, which is legal in my province due to one-party consent and conversation in an area with no expectation of privacy. I told him the problem and I showed him the picture I took of my timesheet before turning it in, and I reminded him that I don't care about getting a proper break, just if you aren't going to cover me, pay me. He crashed the F out, told me they can fire me if they want to because I left property to go and get food while on a covered break and didn't ask permission. He also admitted to modifying my timesheet, which is even more illegal than the wage theft. He also admitted he knew he has to pay me, but, quote, there ain't anything you can do about it, so get the F out. Today, the verdict came from the Labour Board, and I won. The hotel was ordered to pay me 3 times all stolen wages for the inconvenience, plus legal fees. It wasn't only me that got a payout. When they came to investigate, they looked into everyone and everything. So all 8 of my co-workers ended up being awarded their stolen wages 3x as well, and the hotel presumably got a gigantic fine. It just goes to show, even if you're the boss and think you're untouchable, you F with the wrong person and you'll get bit right back 10 times harder. Now I'm gearing up for a wrongful termination suit, or to wish them bad luck and let the door hit them in the butt as they get fired and leave. Oh, once again, like other stories that I've read on this subreddit before, it's such a frustrating story because like, why not just pay somebody a little bit more money or allow them to have their breaks or whatever it is? Like what it is doesn't matter. Just like the difference between not giving them that extra money or paying them for those breaks and giving them that extra money and paying for the breaks is so minimal in the grand scheme of things. I don't care like what your company is. It doesn't even matter if you just have one employee. If you're like having to pay them just a couple of $1,000s or whatever it is more per year, which is all this would be, or say, yeah, you can take more breaks, like, I don't know, an extra 20-30 minutes a day of breaks. What is that going to change? Whereas if you don't do this and you know you're breaking the law, you are risking everything. Not just the company, but you yourself could go to prison. It's like the dumbest thing ever. Also, in terms of just like morale of this employee and sort of employee loyalty, I suppose, wouldn't you want them to be happy with their working circumstance and be excited to come to work? Not excited, but you know what I mean. Not be dreading the fact that you have to sit at your desk all day and are not paid for any break you take ever and are not allowed to do that. It just makes no sense to me. Surely you'd like rather your employees be in a good mood and maybe, yeah, you got to pay them a little bit more money, but I don't know. Surely that just makes for a better working environment and would cause more success for the company in the future. I think it would anyway. It would also stop yourself getting sued like this. Fair play, OP. And now for our final revenge story of this episode. This is the one where this Redditor needs our help. Help me get revenge on the man that ruined my sister's life. Long story short, about 2 years ago, my sister bought the house of her dreams on her own. And me and my dad renovated it together for her since she was going through surgery at the time. Shortly after, her new boyfriend moves in. Seems like a decent and innocent man, although a bit nervous and insecure. Fast forward to Christmas last year, and he asks her to get engaged, and he wants to help pay the mortgage. There's just the small fact that he needs to be signed as an owner of the house in order to be equally responsible for the mortgage. My sister signs the paperwork because they're going to get engaged and start a family. That's at least what he manipulated her to think. Well, almost immediately after she signs the papers, he does a 180 and turns into a massive idiot. Things get worse and worse, and he's becoming verbally abusive on almost a daily basis. She asks him to move out, and he basically says, no, I own half of the house and half of everything in it, and we're going to sell the house, and I'm going to get half the profit and half of the furniture, and I'm not moving until then. All of this is obviously premeditated by him. He works in banking and real estate, so he knows what he's doing, and he knows that there's a very real possibility he can walk away with 20k from a house that he never paid for, or even changed a frickin' toilet roll in, all while my sister has to give up her dream house. We don't live in the US, and we have lawyers, so no legal advice needed. I just want to quite literally ruin his life. Any suggestions? Okay guys, so this is where you come in. Get your comments in down below. What do you think OP could do? I think OP here has a lot of scope to sort of do whatever. Like the door's been left very open for us and you guys in the comments to suggest anything really. I will just read a couple of edits that OP has left though to maybe push us down a certain path. First of all, they said, thank you for your help, because obviously people in the comments were thinking of hundreds of ideas. I'm planning my revenge and I'm going to implement some of your suggestions. The revenge will be calculated, slow, and hopefully life-wrecking, so he won't do this to another person again. I'll reply to each and every comment when I have time. Second edit. My sister has asked me to not do anything considered to be illegal in our country of residence, so I'll reconsider some of the options I have. I agree with that, by the way. I don't think it's worth putting yourself at risk or doing something criminal just because somebody else has done something criminal. I mean, this isn't criminal, I suppose, but morally it's awful. But I don't think it's worth risking your future to enact revenge. There are better ways of doing it. Anyway, there is, however, pee all over his car, OP says. Great. Must have been the neighbour's cats again. Oh, and he's already been offered some help from various religious groups. Bless his soul. And one final edit. Currently working on relocating my sister and all her belongings to a safe place since he started to claim he can have half of her furniture too. He hasn't bought anything except a TV. So we're planning on emptying the entire house in one day and then cutting the water and power. I'm also writing a lengthy statement to his current employer and every potential employer in the county. That is great to hear, and that is what I'd suggest. You know, I think you have enough information here to really destroy his life. Similar to the second story, really, where the B&B owner made it his mission to destroy that thief's life by, like, you know, spamming the comments of his Facebook page and telling everyone on LinkedIn or whatever it was to never ever use this guy's services. But yeah, get in the comments down below. What do you guys think? Just want to read this one comment. It's very interesting. You should donate small amounts to heinous political campaigns in his name. My daughter ruined her father's political career by doing this. That is really interesting. I want to hear clever things like that from you. I feel like, you know, peeing on his car is one thing. I want clever. I feel like this audience that we've got here, this community, is full of people with IQs of minimum 142. Don't let me down in the comments, guys. I want to hear your very best, your most intelligent thoughts. My mother-in-law asked my husband to subscribe to her OnlyFans to support her. My mother-in-law, who is 40, has always been very open about sex. When I first met my husband, she managed a sex toy store. About a year ago, she started working towards a degree on sexual health and wellness. She nude models for a local artist, and around a month ago, she started an OnlyFans account. Sex and an openness about it has always been an extraordinarily normal thing for her. I have absolutely nothing against her working in the sex industry. That's her forte, and I'm happy that she's doing well and enjoying what she does. However, I've had some slight concerns about it before. Not specifically her working in the sex industry or her openness in general, more so how open she is, especially with her own kids. For example, my husband and I started dating in high school when she was managing the sex store. When she'd come home from work, she would stop by my husband's boyfriend at the time's room and hand us sample sizes of different lubes and sensation creams, saying, "I thought you guys might want to try some of these." It always made us both pretty uncomfortable, and it was extremely awkward to have my boyfriend's mum hand me things to try sexually with her son. But nonetheless, the most conversation that my husband and I ever had about it back then was about how awkward it was. Awkward and uncomfortable enough that we never actually used these things. They just piled up on a shelf by his bed. Another time, while we were dating, fresh out of high school, we were hanging out with his sisters. His mum was still working at the sex toy shop. Once in a while, she'd come home with silly toys, and on this night, she walked in with a 1 foot long, glittery you-know-what. She playfully whipped it around towards us like a sword. His sisters screamed and ran from her, and for a while, we all laughed and had fun about it, snatching it from one another and chasing each other around with the glitter schlong. Not quite sure I can say that, but anyway. Eventually, my husband's sister, who was 17 at the time, said something like, "Mum, you better not have brought that home to use. That's crazy." My husband chimed off an "ooh," saying he didn't want to think about that. And his mum laughed and replied, "Oh no, that's silicone. You know the toys that I use are glass." Again, my husband made a weird face but didn't say anything. When we got to his room, I said that it was weird that his mum talked to her children about what she used to get her rocks off, and he told me that she's always been way too open about things that none of them wanted to know, but that she's always just been this way, so he's gotten used to tuning it out. As time went on, I got used to the openness, and it was just that, being too open about personal stuff within conversation. However, yesterday the openness went too far. My husband and I were sitting in our living room watching TV. My husband got a text from his mum and opened it and had a visceral reaction. He tossed his phone down, stood up, walked away from it with his hands over his face while saying things like, "Oh my god," and "holy trash" under his breath. Naturally, I thought someone had died, so I started frantically asking what was wrong. All he said was that he didn't even want to open his phone again. I asked again what was wrong, and he told me that his mum just sent him pictures. I was confused, but my concern started to grow. I asked what he meant by pictures, and he hesitated before saying, "I don't want to ask you to look, but I can't open it back up to delete it myself, so I need you to." My stomach dropped. I opened his phone to see what was there, and I immediately felt nauseous. There was a text that read, "Hey, I know you've always supported me, and I wanted to see if you'd be willing to subscribe to my OnlyFans so that I can get my numbers up while I'm getting started. Of course, I don't expect or want you looking through it, but the more subscriber numbers I have, the more engagement I can get. I was also wondering if you'd be willing to share my link to some of your friends at work." My husband is in a male-dominated blue-collar job. The pics I included are to send to them with the link, but don't tell them I'm your mum. And under was the pictures. There were 3 nude photos of his mother, and not just naked in a mirror or pic of the boobs kind of photos. They were full-on pornographic photos. One of her tied up in BDSM gear, one of her face down, butt up on her bed, and one of her with legs spread and a you-know-what halfway in her mouth. My blood was boiling. I deleted what she'd sent, and my husband and I were both silent for a moment. I didn't know what else to say or do, so I broke the silence by asking, "What now?" My husband told me to block his mum on his phone, so I did. I asked if this was something his mum has done before, and he said no. He told me that in the past, she's asked if he wanted to see pictures of the drawings she posed for. He always felt a bit guilty saying no, so he simply didn't respond when she asked, and she never sent it. Then my husband went pale and started walking to the bathroom, saying he felt sick. While he was in there, I blocked his mum on my phone as well, including her social media. When my husband came back out of the bathroom, he called his sister. He asked her if she was with their mum, and when she said no, he explained to her what had just gone down. His sister was also speechless. Then he asked her not to say anything to other family members right now, and explained that neither him or I would be in contact with their mum for a while. He also told her that any time we were home for a visit, he would let his sisters know so that we could plan to see them, but that his mum would not be included in those plans from here on out. My mother-in-law quickly realised that she was blocked on everything by the both of us, and by that night, she had the whole family blowing up our phones asking why. The constant messages haven't stopped, and so far, we've just muted our phones as we don't even know what to say. How do you explain that your mother sent you her homemade prawn? Okay, so there we go. That is it for the original post. As I said in the introduction, we have a couple of updates to come in this one. Before we get into the first update though, let's first of all have a look at some of the comments. Somebody said under this first post, quoting, "Covert incest is a form of non-physical sexual abuse. Examples of covert incest could be the parents sharing intimate, graphic details of their own sex life to the child, practicing voyeurism, exhibitionism, inappropriate sharing of images, and similar behaviors that, while still being sexual abuse, are described as covert for their intangible nature." Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense to me. That sounds exactly like covert incest. Goodness me. OP replied saying, "Thank you for these comments. I've never heard of covert incest, but now I know exactly what is going on, and my husband and I both have some reading up to do." Somebody else said, "When anyone asks why she's blocked, tell them the truth. She sent her OF link and pornographic photos of herself to him, and that crossed a major boundary that he shouldn't have even had to place. Her behavior when he was younger is concerning. I'd be discussing it with a therapist to decide how to move forward, as there is likely some more vomit-inducing things in his past that he might not realise are actually things she groomed him to believing was normal." OP replied to this saying, "This has been a concern of mine since the sex toy discussion, and this incident affirmed that for me. When my husband gets home, I plan on asking about the past a bit, but I don't want to pry, as I don't want to rehash something that he isn't ready to discuss with me, especially things that could be traumatizing. I do know that when we were dating, there was a bit of an issue with her asking explicit details about his sex life, and even about me. Do you prefer a clean-shaved girl? Was one of them. Despite him not answering, she gave him a bikini shaving set from her shop to give to me. Have you tried these positions? I think she would enjoy them. Are you guys using lube? You need to be using lube. Does she prefer ribbed condoms? To name just a few. I know these things made my husband wildly uncomfortable, and when I asked him why he never said to just stop, he told me he has in the past, but she got extremely defensive and acted offended. She would go on a tangent about how she wanted him to be comfortable, coming to her about everything, and how sex was a normal part of life that they should be able to discuss. That's always been something that concerned me. We both go to regular counselling, so again, without prying, I'm going to suggest diving into his mother's past with this behaviour in therapy. And finally, somebody suggested it would be a good time for your husband to tell your mother-in-law that he's going to take a break from her. An email saying he's wanted to support her in her interests, even though they disturb him. This request that she send those personal pictures of herself to co-workers is highly inappropriate, whether or not he told them she was a relative. That is his job. Those are unsolicited sexual pictures. They are pictures of his mother, which he personally finds disturbing. Those are co-workers who could report him to his superiors. His mother is old enough to know that 1, it's inappropriate to be sharing sexual details with her children unless they have asked her to. 2, unsolicited sexual content is unsuitable for sharing in general public unless it is acceptable, i.e. Pride Day, a health fair, fetish flea, etc. And 3, soliciting sexual content in the workplace is a potential firing offence. It's time for your husband to be blunt with your mother-in-law and tell her she is deeply disturbing him. Opie replied to this, "My husband is in the military. It isn't just a firing, it's a sharp case with a dishonourable discharge." Wow, well that, if possible, makes it even worse. Now, was anyone else, while listening to that, thinking about the start of sex education? Like specifically episode 1, season 1, episode 1. If you've not seen it, you might not be sure what I'm saying here. And I haven't seen the whole series, I'm going to be honest. I've just watched like a few episodes of the first season. I know I should watch more. All right, I get it, relax. But I was kind of thinking, if you don't know, one of the main characters' mums is like a sex therapist, and she's pretty obviously openly sexual, or not sexual, but like she you know, she doesn't hide away from talking about sex with her son, and that makes him pretty uncomfortable. Whatever. So I was kind of getting that sort of vibe and thinking, you know what? Like, yeah, this is really, really strange, but it's not the end of the world. But it just got weirder and weirder and weirder. And look, I'm not against sort of, you know, children and parents having that sort of relationship where they talk about everything and they talk about sex and what they've been up to in their free time. You know, I'm all for that. I'm not saying I have that relationship myself with my parents. Maybe one day, I doubt it. It's not really my vibe or theirs, I don't think. But I know some of my friends who will speak about that sort of stuff with their parents pretty openly. Power to them. I think just, yeah, it's getting a little bit too far here. Even before the pictures and saying, oh yeah, do you want to just share my OnlyFans? That's right, your mum's OnlyFans to all your co-workers. Even before that, I think we were overstepping a couple of boundaries. And when that person is listed in the comments down below, covert incest, and given the definition there, I mean, this is exactly what it is. It's not physical incest, but sending your son like nudes of yourself, it's got to be illegal. And I think it is.